Chapter 1694. Feather Fairy? Who was that? Blood Red War Flag was confused. They were familiar with most of the people in Chuanjin, but this was the first time they had heard of the name Feather Fairy. She is Iron Ox's wife. Bloodwind Whisper explained. The moment Bloodwind Whisper said this, Blood Red War Flag felt a chill down their spine. They couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. As a native of Yu Huicheng who had a good relationship with Chuanjin, Blood Red War Flag had heard about how Iron Ox protected his wife. It was said that a certain guild had kidnapped Iron Ox's wife because of some business matter. Now, that guild's corpse was cold in the game. Blood Red War Flag didn't know what to say. After all, who the Feather Fairy wasn't important anymore. What was important was that soon, no one would know who Blood Alliance was. After all, as the first guild leader to be targeted by Wang Yu, Blood Red War Flag knew better than anyone else how terrifying Wang Yu was. This person came and went without a trace, could fly in the sky and burrow into the ground, and was invincible. After all, as the first guild leader of a guild that Wang Yu had targeted, Blood Red War Flag knew better than anyone just how frightening Wang Yu was. This man came and went without a trace, could fly in the sky, burrow into the ground, and was invincible. After all, as the first guild leader to be targeted by Wang Yu, Blood Red War Flag knew better than anyone how terrifying Wang Yu was. This person came and went without a trace, could fly in the sky and burrow into the ground, and was invincible. With such a terrifying person staring at them from the shadows, Blood Alliance's final outcome would be to leave the guild in fear to ensure their safety. With Wang Yu's ability, 100 or 80 people might not be his match. It wasn't difficult for him to kill his way out of 1,000 or 800 people. Even if there were tens of thousands of people chasing him, he would be able to escape unscathed. Blood Alliance players couldn't move together in tens of thousands every day. Facing the crazy revenge of such a terrifying expert, they had no other choice but to retreat. After all, everyone was here to play the game. Who would want to live under the shadow of death every day? Wang Yu alone was already so difficult to deal with. What would happen if Chuanjin joined in? Thinking about this, Blood Red War Flag felt a sharp pain in its chest. What was going on? Then what would we do next? Blood Red War Flag wasn't a professional at cleaning up after people. Blood Alliance had been messed up by Blood Thousand Miles, so there was nothing Blood Red War Flag could do about it. Blood Red War Flag also knew that if they fought head-on, Chuanjin definitely wouldn't be Blood Alliance's match. But so what if they won? Once Blood Alliance was harassed by Chuanjin, it would be even worse than losing. If they won, they would die. If they lost, they would die. Blood Red War Flag really did not know what to do. I knew you would ask that. In response to Blood Red War Flag's question, Bloodwind Whisper smiled and said, I think it's time for us to draw a line with 1,000 miles. You? What do you mean? Blood Red War Flag was stunned and asked in surprise, Do you want it? That's right. Bloodwind Whisper nodded and said, Even if we don't leave now, the 1,000 miles of blood won't be able to accommodate us in the future. Impossible. Blood Red War Flag panicked. Blood Red Alliance was created by me. How could they? Let's return to reality. Bloodwind Whisper interrupted Blood Red War Flag's words and said, Since ancient times, when the birds are gone, the bough must be hidden. Now that Blood Red Alliance has developed, there will naturally be people who will come to pick the fruit. Do you think they will still need you and me? Save it. If we lose this time, we won't have a chance. If we win, we could just wait to pack up and leave. This, Bloodwind Whisper's words made Blood Red War Flag speechless. Their heart turned cold from head to toe. That's right. After all, Blood Red War Flag was just an employee. Naturally, the fruits of their labor had to be left to the owner. Being chased to Saga City was the best proof. If 1,000 miles of blood was taken care of by Chuanjin, then all of Blood Alliance's businesses, including Saga City, would belong to Chuanjin. Blood Red War Flag would naturally be forced out. If Chuanjin was taken care of by 1,000 miles of Blood Red War Flag, then it would prove that Blood Red War Flag was trash. They had been in Yu Huicheng for so long and still couldn't take care of a small guild with 12 people. What was the point of keeping such trash around? At the end of the day, the fruit of victory wouldn't belong to Blood Red War Flag. It definitely wouldn't belong to the old brothers of Blood Red War Flag. What was the point of winning or losing? Blood Red War Flag was a smart person. He naturally understood what Blood Wind Whisper meant. After realizing that they were just pawns that could be removed at any time, Blood Red War Flag sighed deeply and said, "It doesn't matter if we leave or not. I just don't want to leave Blood Alliance and these brothers." Although Blood Red War Flag's words sounded dignified, they came from the bottom of his heart. After raising cats and dogs for a long time, there would be feelings. Moreover, Blood Red War Flag had single-handedly raised Blood Red War Flag. There were also the brothers that had fought together. Blood Red War Flag wasn't cold-hearted, so it was reasonable that they couldn't bear to part with them. That's why I said to watch the show. Blood Wind Whisper revealed a smile. Seeing Blood Wind Whisper's expression, Blood Red War Flag suddenly had a series of question marks on its head. What does this mean? Hee hee. Blood Wind Whisper said, "People strive for higher places, water flows to lower places. We've decided to leave with Blood Alliance." After saying that, Blood Wind Whisper repeated the deal with Chuanjin to Blood Red War Flag. What the F*** CK? Blood Red War Flag was shocked. Boss Wuji said it from the bottom of his heart. "It should be right." Blood Wind Whisper asked, "Boss, do you want to continue with Blood Red Miles or leave with us? This isn't a difficult choice, right?" "Forget it. I'm not in Yuhuiqing anyway." Blood Red War Flag pondered for a long time, then sighed and said, "Whatever you say." Blood Red War Flag was also a person who valued relationships. After working with Blood Red Miles for so long, they naturally couldn't just cut ties with Blood Wind Whisper. However, in this matter, Blood Red Miles was unkind first, and Blood Red Miles was courting death later. Now that Blood Red Miles had offended Wang Yu, one could imagine the outcome. Would they continue to be kicked out of the game without a future, or would they choose to establish their own guild? Of course, this was not a difficult choice. Just as Blood Wind Whisper said, people strive for higher places. Ultimately, one had to look at benefits. The meaning of Blood Red War Flag's words was also very clear. If you want to do it, then do it. Anyway, I can't help in Saga City. When Chuanjin wins, Saga City will just belong to a different guild. In the game, the Blood Alliance players had already gathered at the guild encampment, waiting to fight to the death with Chuanjin. However, at this time, the team leaders suddenly gave an order. "Everyone listen up. Blood Red Miles can't be relied on. Are we really going to risk our lives for him?" Chapter 1695. Just like companies in real life, in order to make it easier to manage large guilds in the game, they would usually split the large group into smaller units. For example, Blood Alliance would have 500 people in a group and 100 people in a team. The teams would be further divided into smaller groups. Currently, Blood Alliance had 15,000 people stationed in Yuhuiqing. They had 30 groups and 150 teams. Every team had a team leader as the core. In this team, the team leader was the one who had the right to speak. The players in the team would only listen to the team leader's orders. As time went by, every team could be considered a small group. Because they had left the scheming of the real world, the relationship between each team was quite close. Crimson Wind Whisper was well aware of this. Hence, it had pulled the captains into the group to carry out a secret plan beforehand. It had already pulled the captains to its side. The team members naturally obeyed their team leader. In fact, obedience aside, when everyone heard the message from the home captain, they all reacted to it. At the start, the players of Blood Alliance decided to fight with Chuanjin. It wasn't for anyone else, but for themselves and their pride. However, after being reminded by the team leaders, the nature of their decision changed. Everyone suddenly realized that they were fighting with their lives on the line for someone else. Everyone was a selfish person. After realizing this, they naturally calmed down. If the guild leader was Blood Red War Flag, after being together for so long, they would definitely fight with their lives on the line. However, what kind of SH*T was 1,000 Miles Blood Alliance? This B** star came to Blood Alliance and chased away the old guild leader. He then forced everyone to fight with their lives on the line. The players of Blood Alliance hated this kid to the bone. Now that they heard that they were going to fight for 1,000 Miles Blood Alliance, everyone was extremely unwilling. As a result, the momentum that Blood Alliance had just raised instantly disappeared. Of course, there were some players who were more rational. After thinking for a moment, they couldn't help but ask, then what should we do? If we don't fight, Blood Alliance will be gone. Don't worry. Facing this question, all the team leaders had already prepared an answer. They calmly replied, we won't get it from Thousand Miles Blood Alliance. Our Blood Alliance has just begun. Although the answers of the captains were ambiguous and confusing, the meaning behind their words was not hard to decipher. Everyone seemed to have sensed it when they heard it, so they stopped talking and obeyed the orders at the same time, choosing to ignore it as it was none of their business. The Quanjin sect's attack on the Blood Alliance also began at this time. With the orders of the team leaders, the Blood Alliance players naturally wouldn't come out to resist. However, they weren't so despicable that they would open the gates to welcome them. Everyone just quietly stood on the city wall and watched as Quan Jun and the others attacked their own guild. The standard of a deathmatch was much higher than an ordinary guild war. In an ordinary guild war, players only needed to destroy the enemy's main guild's residence to win. In a deathmatch, however, not only did players need to destroy all of the guild's residences, but they also needed to kill the enemy's leaders at least 10 times. If the target went offline during the process, they would be considered to have given up and surrendered. Blood Alliance had 30 guilds, and apart from the main guild base, there were 20 or so other bases. Quanjin sect only had a dozen or so people, and to take down 30 guild bases was a huge amount of work. It could be considered as physical work. Fortunately, the people from the Quan Jun sect were not weak, and their damage output was high enough. Moreover, Wu Ji was willing to spend money. He spent a high price to buy 4 siege ladders. In a situation where there was no resistance, the efficiency of the siege was still very fast. Within the Blood Alliance office, Thousand Miles Blood and the others were still waiting for Chuanjin to be wiped out by their players. Not long after, they received a system notification. The base of your Blood Alliance has been breached by the Quanjin sect. Only the base remains. Please prepare to defend it. Have fun. This system was so naughty. Their own base had been destroyed, and they still wanted to have fun? Happy my ass. F***CK. After receiving the system notification, Thousand Miles Blood nearly jumped up. Without saying anything else, he angrily sent a message to the defending team. What's going on? What are you guys doing? A bunch of trash. The team leader defending Blood Alliance's base was none other than Blood Shura. After receiving Thousand Miles Blood Shura's message, Blood Shura pouted and didn't reply. Instead, he blacklisted Thousand Miles Blood Shura. Thousand Miles Blood Shura sent another message. This time, the system told Thousand Miles Blood Shura the other party has rejected all non-friend messages. Seeing this notification, Thousand Miles Blood Shura was about to explode. He directly scolded in the guild channel, Blood Shura, you trash. You dare to blacklist me? Just you wait. After scolding Blood Shura, Thousand Miles Blood Shura threatened the others. All of you listen up. If Blood Alliance is gone, you guys won't have a good time? Look, what was a young man? What was insensible? As a teacher, Thousand Miles Blood Shura was used to giving orders to his students. He actually dared to do the same thing to the players in the game. Wasn't he digging a hole for himself? Everyone played the game to bully others, not to be dogs for their guild leader. What kind of dog was Thousand Miles Blood Shura? How dare he talk to their grandfathers like that? If it was an old fox like Blood Red War Flag, they would definitely say all sorts of nice things. Even if they couldn't give any benefits on the spot, they would at least try to cheer everyone up. Thousand Miles Blood Shura's actions were like adding fuel to the fire. Originally, everyone hated Thousand Miles Blood Shura, but they were still very resistant to not resisting. Therefore, they felt slightly guilty towards Thousand Miles Blood Shura. However, after Thousand Miles Blood Shura said this, the guilt in everyone's hearts instantly disappeared. What the F***CK was this? Even at this time, he still didn't know what was going on. Go, want to be a second master? Grandfathers don't want to serve you anymore. There was even someone who directly sent a message to Wuji and the others. Boss Wuji, come to our base. The gate is already open for you. When you come, just smash the crystal. Boss Wuji, come to our base first. We have beauties as your cheerleaders. Even Wuji was dumbfounded when he received the invitation from the Blood Alliance players. After a while, he finally said, "If the people's hearts are scattered, the team will be hard to lead. What kind of person is Thousand Miles Blood Shura?" With the cooperation of the Blood Alliance players in Chuanjin, Blood Alliance lost 3 bases to Chuanjin. Chapter 1696. Let's go. Let's go back to the base. After receiving news of the 4th base being destroyed, Thousand Miles couldn't hold it in any longer. Blood Alliance had 30 guild bases and a total of 15,000 people. On average, each base had 500 people. Even if these 500 people were just standing there and letting the enemy kill them, they wouldn't have been killed so quickly. Moreover, there were health bars at the entrance of the base. It would take a while for a dozen or so of them to put their lives on the line. How could so many bases be destroyed so quickly? Thousand Miles wasn't an idiot. He didn't even need to think to know that there was a problem. There was a traitor among his subordinates. As the saying goes, if you rely on a mountain, the mountain will fall. Since his subordinates couldn't be relied on, Thousand Miles could only do it himself. Logically speaking, the guild leader had a lot of responsibility in a guild war. Under normal circumstances, he would have to stay behind and give orders. As the guild leader, Thousand Miles had to personally go to the front lines and risk his life. Punk. However, just as Thousand Miles and the others were about to leave, the door to the Blood Alliance's office was suddenly kicked open. Wood splinters flew everywhere, and the door was smashed into pieces. At the same time, a tall and sturdy figure blocked the entrance. It wasn't anyone else but Wang Yu. "It's you!" Seeing the familiar face at the door, Thousand Miles and the others were all shocked, their souls almost flying out of their bodies. Thousand Miles pointed at Wang Yu and said in shock, "You, when did you get in?" Blood Alliance's office was private territory. According to the system settings, private territory should be a safe zone. According to the system's settings, even a god-tier boss would not be able to open this door. How could Wang Yu kick open his own door? Could it be that this brat's advanced technology had already surpassed the system's settings? Clearly, using cheats could easily lower one's intelligence. Thousand Miles Crimson's imagination was already running wild. He could even come up with nonsense like being above the system. I kicked the door in. Wang Yu spread out his hands with an innocent look on his face. This was such an obvious thing. Was the Crimson blind and unable to see it? F***CK. Thousand Miles Crimson was speechless for a moment before shouting again. "How can you enter my private house? Even if you're the city lord, you don't have the right to do that. I want to complain about you, you cheater." Thousand Miles of Crimson wasn't wrong. Although a city lord could ignore the safety zones, he could only ignore public safety zones like the revival point and the teleportation point. Private houses couldn't be entered and exited at will. Otherwise, who would be able to sell their houses to? You have no common sense. Hearing this, Wang Yu curled his lips and said, "This is a guild war. Do you think you have a safe zone?" Thousand Miles of Blood, who was about to report Wang Yu, was immediately rebuked. The safe zone also had its limits. Its protection only existed during times of peace. Once war broke out, the safe zone would lose its effect. For example, during a city war, guild war, or even a monster siege, unless the system designated a revival point, all safe zones would lose their effect. Wang Yu's sudden entrance had scared the blood-red war flag players silly. They had actually forgotten about this common sense. In the end, they were forced to their deaths by Wang Yu, a noob. How unlucky. Then why are you here? After a moment of shock, Thousand Miles Crimson asked a question that even he himself thought was stupid. In the end, Wang Yu was a highly cultured person. Faced with Thousand Miles Crimson's question, Wang Yu did not mock him. Instead, he patiently explained, "To kill you." While answering, Wang Yu did not remain idle. As soon as the word kill left his mouth, Wang Yu charged at Thousand Miles Crimson. As soon as the word kill left his mouth, Wang Yu was already in front of Thousand Miles Crimson. Wang Yu had a tall stature. When he arrived in front of Thousand Miles Crimson felt as if a mountain was pressing down on him. A terrifying and overwhelming aura swept towards him. Immediately after, Wang Yu raised his right hand, curled his fingers, and formed a claw with his palm. He grabbed at Thousand Miles Crimson's face. Thousand Miles Crimson was a class that focused on agility. Moreover, he had been implanted with a smart chip. Both his reaction speed and movement speed were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the power of the smart chip was displayed to the extreme. Just as Wang Yu was about to grab Thousand Miles Crimson's head, Thousand Miles Crimson dodged backwards, barely dodging Wang Yu's attack. His reaction speed is quite fast. Seeing this, Wang Yu could not help but narrow his eyes. When Wang Yu said that his reaction speed was quite fast, he was not referring to himself. Rather, when compared to Thousand Miles Crimson's previous performance, Thousand Miles Crimson's current reaction speed was somewhat unexpected to Wang Yu. Thousand Miles Crimson was the boss of everyone present. Seeing Thousand Miles Crimson being attacked, of course, the others would not just stand by and watch. Just as Thousand Miles Crimson dodged Wang Yu's attack, Landslide raised a tower shield and stood in front of Wang Yu. This earth-shattering expert was the strongest out of all of the Scarlet Thousand Miles members. Because his shield had been shattered by Wang Yu with a single punch, he was filled with hatred towards Wang Yu. After arriving in front of Wang Yu, Landslide raised a shield and used Shield Bash on Wang Yu. The same move could not be used twice against Wang Yu. Previously, Landslide had been using an arm shield, so Wang Yu had not been able to determine Thousand Miles Crimson's class in time. At this moment, Wang Yu already knew Thousand Miles Crimson's class. Moreover, Thousand Miles Crimson's arm shield had been replaced with a tower shield, so his casting speed was much slower. Naturally, he could not hit Wang Yu. In the next moment, Wang Yu tilted his body and took a small step back. Thousand Miles Crimson's shield struck nothing but air. Losing his balance, Wang Yu stumbled forward. Standing to the side, Wang Yu raised his hand and slashed at the back of Thousand Miles Crimson's neck. Who would have thought that Thousand Miles Crimson's reaction speed would be just as fast? The instant Wang Yu's hand slashed at the back of Thousand Miles Crimson's neck, the chip in Thousand Miles Crimson's head activated, and Thousand Miles Crimson used Group Taunt. It was common knowledge that Shield Warriors had two types of taunt skills. The first type was a single-target taunt. The taunt had a long range and was a directional skill that could not be dodged. The second type was an AoE taunt. The AoE taunt was a non-directional skill. It had a small cast range and was easy to dodge. However, it was a 360-degree skill with no blind spots. When Wang Yu's hand slashed down, it just so happened to land within Thousand Miles Crimson's taunt range. Naturally, Wang Yu was hit as well. Suddenly, Thousand Miles Crimson was sucked to his back. Chapter 1697. Needless to say, this smart chip was quite useful. Wang Yu played Rebirth for a long time. Against normal players, Wang Yu could easily take on dozens of them. However, Thousand Miles of Crimson only had 5 or 6 people. Today, they had put Wang Yu in danger several times. It could be seen how powerful this chip was. It was comparable to 20 years of training for a normal martial artist. Wang Yu did not wait for the samurai's sword, which suddenly shone with a golden light, to strike him. He shouted and activated his internal breath. His body suddenly emitted a blue light, and he forcefully broke free from the taunt. At that time, the golden flash katana was already in front of Wang Yu. Wang Yu suddenly stepped to the side and dodged the attack. His left hand pressed down, and the katana fell to the ground. His right hand struck out and pressed against Golden Flash Katana's chest. Bang! With a muffled sound, Golden Flash Katana felt a huge force coming from his chest. Then, he was involuntarily hit by Wang Yu's palm and flew backward. At this moment, the air behind Wang Yu distorted. Demon Dancing Withered Vine appeared behind Wang Yu with a dagger in her hand. She stabbed Wang Yu's back with all her might. Wang Yu lowered his body, and Demon Dancing Vine's dagger brushed past Wang Yu's back. Wang Yu did not panic. He gently pushed Demon Dancing Vine's back. Demon Dancing Vines instantly accelerated and stabbed the dagger into Golden Flash Katana's heart. Golden Flash Katana was a weapon warrior. Moreover, it was a weapon warrior that added points to agility. Other than its heavy armor, its health was not much higher than a normal assassin's. Wang Yu's attack power was extremely high. When the golden light appeared, he was hit in the chest by Wang Yu's palm. The health bar above his head was already very low. Now that he was hit by the dancing demon Withered Vine's all-out attack, the result was obvious. Whoosh! With one slash, Golden Flash Katana died on the spot. It turned into a white light and went to the resurrection point. F***CK, F***CK, F***CK. The demon dancing Withered Vine screamed when it saw that it had struck its own teammate. It hurriedly turned around and wanted to counterattack again. However, Wang Yu's reaction speed and movement speed were far above the demon dancing Withered Vine. Before Devil Dancing Withered Vine could turn around, Wang Yu had already arrived and grabbed Devil Dancing Withered Vine's collar. Out of the way, just as Wang Yu was about to grab hold of the Demon Dancing Withered Vine, the Demon Dancing Withered Vine's dripping stone skill was already ready. Wang Yu hurriedly shouted at the Demon Dancing Withered Vine and raised his hands. Roar! Accompanied by a dragon roar, a red and a blue dragon pounced on Wang Yu head-on. Dual Dragon Burst. F***CK me. Seeing this, Devil Dancing Withered Vine was shocked. She quickly stood up and let Wang Yu grab the back of her collar. However, Wang Yu, who was holding onto the demonic dancing Withered Vine, had a puzzled expression on his face. Voila! The two dragons collided with the Demon Dancing Withered Vine, and the Demon Dancing Withered Vine shattered into pieces. This was Doppelganger. It seemed that Devil Dancing Withered Vine also knew that Dual Dragon Burst activation speed was slightly slow, and it would not be easy to hit a freak like Wang Yu. Hence, the instant Dual Dragon Burst was launched, Devil Dancing Withered Vine stood up and used Doppelganger, allowing Wang Yu to grab its Doppelganger, thus delaying Wang Yu's time. To be able to make such a reaction in such a short period of time, even Wang Yu gasped in amazement at the speed of his reaction. As expected of the most advanced technology, it was actually so powerful. There was only one person between Wang Yu and Devil Dancing Withered Vine. The moment the dragons engulfed Devil Dancing Withered Vine, Wang Yu could not dodge in time. The two dragons bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they slammed into Wang Yu. Beautiful. Seeing this scene, the members of 1,000 Miles of Crimson clenched their fists tightly and cheered in their hearts. Their faces were filled with joy. As a true Chi master, although their skin was thin and their hands were short, their damage output was still quite high. This was especially true for Dual Dragon Burst, whose damage output was comparable to a lightning mage's violent thunderspell. No matter how strong Wang Yu was, being hit by that attack would not bode well for him. The members of 1,000 Miles of Crimson would never have dreamt that they would be forced to such a state, even with their smart ships. Fortunately, with everyone's cooperation, they finally sent this terrifying guy back to the resurrection point. Of course, dreams were always plentiful, and people also needed dreams. Just when the members of 1,000 Miles of Crimson thought that Wang Yu was dead for sure, a dark red flame suddenly shot into the sky. Bang! With a loud bang, the two giant dragons that were charging at Wang Yu shattered and turned into smoke that filled the sky. As the smoke dissipated, Wang Yu stood tall and upright in front of everyone. His hands were like claws, and his entire body was surrounded by black and red flames. At first glance, he looked like a demon that had returned from hell, causing people to feel fear. Enhancement skill, Burning Flame Steps. This is impossible. Seeing Wang Yu in front of them, the members of 1,000 Miles of Crimson all revealed expressions of fear, especially Dripping Stone. He even muttered to himself, somewhat doubting his life. It was obvious that the Dual Dragon Burst that Dripping Stone was so proud of had been broken by Wang Yu. Moreover, it was not difficult to see that Wang Yu's method of breaking the skill was quite simple and crude. He had actually used his bare hands to crush it, crushing a Chi Master's Dual Dragon Burst with his bare hands. Dripping Stone could not accept this reality no matter what. While Dripping Stone was in a daze, Wang Yu was not idle. Wang Yu's left hand made a grabbing motion towards Dripping Stone. A raging flame flew out of his hand and swept towards Dripping Stone. Dripping Stone could not dodge in time, and was caught by the raging flames. Afterwards, he was directly pulled into Wang Yu's hands. Wang Yu raised his sandbag-sized fist and smashed it into Dripping Stone's handsome face. Pooh! With a flash of white light, Dripping Stone's head was smashed by Wang Yu's fist. Seeing this, Thousand Miles of Crimson and the other 3 lucky survivors couldn't help but feel a chill at the back of their heads. In the game, female players were often pampered. Even if it was a PK, everyone would try their best to be lenient and not make things too difficult for their opponents. However, this bastard in front of them did not have the slightest bit of tenderness for the fairer sex. He could even be so ruthless towards a beautiful woman. Could he be a psychopath? Of course, in reality, Wang Yu was a very cultured person. Under normal circumstances, he would try his best not to make a move on a woman if he could avoid it. However, for a woman like Dripping Stone, it was obvious that she wanted Wang Yu's life. How could Wang Yu just sit and wait for his death? Men could be gentlemanly, but gentlemanly was definitely not cheap. He hoped that all the single dogs would learn from this. When it came to relationships between men and women, especially when it came to dating partners, whoever was cheap would lose. After all, bootlickers would never have a good ending. Cough, cough. If he wasn't careful, he would be far away. Dripping Stone was an important damage dealer for Thousand Miles of Crimson's group. After killing Dripping Stone, the pressure on Wang Yu decreased significantly. Before Dripping Stone's corpse had even cooled, Wang Yu flashed to Thousand Miles of Crimson's side. He grabbed Thousand Miles of Crimson's throat and tightened his grip. Crack! Chapter 1698. Confucius said, "Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor." Confucius also said, to scold someone, first scold their mother. To capture the bandits, first capture the king. The conflict between the Blood Alliance and Quan Jun sect was started by Bloody Thousand Miles. Capturing Mu Zixin was also done by Bloody Thousand Miles. At this moment, Xuanjin and Blood Alliance were fighting to the death. Killing Thousand Miles was a mandatory quest and had little to do with the others. Seeing that Thousand Miles Crimson was dead, Wang Yu turned around and left without saying a word. After all, players could revive infinitely. Thousand Miles wasn't a noob and obviously knew the rules of a guild battle to the death. After the previous encounter, Thousand Miles Crimson had already been killed by Wang Yu twice. This time, he had learned his lesson. Since he couldn't win, he definitely wouldn't fight Wang Yu head-on. Blood Alliance wasn't far from the revival point, but it wasn't close either. If Wang Yu didn't hurry over and Thousand Miles escaped, it would be troublesome. During guild battles, players could use the teleportation channel. Different from the other big guilds, Xuanjin only had a dozen or so people. Naturally, they couldn't send people to block the teleportation point. The world of Rebirth was so big. Even if Wang Yu had a skill like Thousand Miles' Eyes, which allowed him to find his opponent's coordinates, Thousand Miles couldn't just stand there and wait for others to kill him. If Thousand Miles really escaped, it would be like searching for a needle in a haystack to catch him. Stop him. Don't let him escape. Thousand Miles Crimson was also quite vigilant. The instant Wang Yu killed him, Thousand Miles Crimson realized the severity of the situation. Hence, he gave Demon Dancing Withered Vine and Landslide a death order to stall Wang Yu as much as possible to buy time for himself to escape. Seeing that Wang Yu was indeed going to chase after the Crimson Thousand Miles, the Demon Dancing Withered Vine hurriedly shouted at the Landslide at the entrance. While shouting, Demon Dancing Vine raised his dagger and charged behind Wang Yu. He grabbed the hilt and used gouge on the back of Wang Yu's head. Wang Yu's senses were extremely powerful, and the Demon Dancing Withered Vine was shouting loudly. How could he not notice it? Wang Yu didn't even turn his head. His right leg suddenly kicked back, bringing along flames and lightning as he kicked forward. Enhanced Thunder Stomp, Flame Thunder Stomp. Wang Yu was tall and had long limbs. Although Demon Dancing Vine had a weapon, daggers were still a short weapon. Before the Dancing Demon Withered Vine's attack could hit the back of Wang Yu's head, Wang Yu's foot, which was covered in flames and lightning, kicked the Dancing Demon Withered Vine's crotch. Thunder Stomp had always been Wang Yu's favorite skill. It could be said to be Wang Yu's signature skill. Be it attack power or priority, Thunderstomp was extremely high. An ordinary tank would lose half of their HP if they took a single kick from it. Now that Burning Flame steps have been enhanced to Flame Thunderstomp, its attack power had increased by another level. Moreover, this kick was aimed at Demon Dancing Vine's weak point. Demon Dancing Vine's fate was self-evident. Swoosh! Demon Dancing Vine chased after 1,000 miles with a flash of white light. Duong! While Wang Yu was kicking Demon Dancing Vine to death, Landslides had also retreated to the office door. He smashed a shield on the ground, and a golden light shone from his body. Then, Landslides' body began to expand. Giant Body, a level 60 skill for shield warriors. The user's body would grow in size for a short period of time, and all their stats would be doubled. In the game, equipment would automatically adjust to the user's size. After Landslides activated Giant Body, the shield in his hand also increased in size. The tower shield was tall and heavy to begin with. With the support of the Landslide Giant's body, it instantly doubled in size. It was like a sturdy door blocking the entrance. It's that brat again. Wang Yu couldn't help but frown at the sight of this landslide. Logically speaking, 1,000 Miles' group was only SOSO in Wang Yu's eyes. However, the only one who could make Wang Yu suffer was this Landslides. Wang Yu was already annoyed that there was such a person in his way. Now that Landslides had come up with such a shameless trick to block the door, Wang Yu was naturally furious. He immediately took 2 steps forward, leaped into the air, and launched a martial god kick at Landslides' shield. Of course, with the buff from Blazing Steps, this skill became Blazing Martial God Kick. With a flash of fire, Wang Yu's foot suddenly grew in size and was surrounded by dark red flames. His foot landed on Landslides' shield. Martial God's forceful kick was one of the ultimate skills of martial artists. Unlike the flashy special effects of other ultimate skills, Martial God's forceful kick special effect was extremely simple. Moreover, it wasn't as complicated as Flash Chain Kick or Lightning Dance. It looked like an extremely ordinary flying kick. However, the damage and priority of Martial God's forceful kick was comparable to Wang Yu's strongest killing move, toppling mountains and overturning seas. Not only could Blazing Steps strengthen skills, but could also strengthen leg skills. After Martial God Kick was upgraded to Blazing Martial God Kick, its damage output reached an unprecedented level. Although the tower shield had the highest defense out of all weapons, it depended on the grade and the user. Mountain Crumbles and Earth Rends had been equipped with a pair of top-grade shields before, but they were still killed by Wang Yu with a single attack. How could he possibly face Wang Yu's enhanced Martial God Kick head-on? There was a loud explosion. The 3 to 4 meters tall and 2 meters wide tower shield in his hand, which looked like a giant door, shattered with a loud bang, turning into a pile of trash. Mountain collapsing and earth splitting was sent flying by the strong force, flying from the entrance of the Blood Alliance office to the wall across the street. Pong! Another loud sound rang out. Under the impact of Wang Yu's strength, the huge body smashed a deep dent in the opposite wall. Following that, Wang Yu turned into a ray of white light. As one of the top guilds in Afterglow City, the Blood Alliance's office was located in the center of the city. This sudden change shocked all the players on the streets. Some people couldn't help but exclaim, "D***MN, what happened just now? Who is so arrogant to kill someone on the street?" Before they even finished speaking, Wang Yu was sent flying out of the Blood Alliance office by Martial God's Kick and landed in the middle of the street. Wang Yu, who had activated Blazing Steps, was covered in black and red flames. His eyes shone with a red light, and he looked like a killing god from hell, scaring everyone on the street into retreating. When everyone saw Wang Yu's appearance, they were stunned once more. They hurried the people beside them. Let's go, let's go. Don't just stand here and watch. Why should we leave? Someone is fighting. I love watching people fight." Someone who didn't know any better said excitedly, "You just came to Yuhui-chung?" "Yes." That person nodded his head. "You'll know after a while. Take your time to watch. I'm leaving first." Chapter 1699. At this moment, Wang Yu was rather pressed for time. After killing Landslide with a single kick, Wang Yu did not linger. She did not even spare a glance at the players on the street. Instead, she leaped onto the city wall and rushed to the resurrection point as fast as she could. At the same time, Demon Dancing, Withered Vine, and Mountain Breaker appeared at the resurrection point one after another. Having said so much, Wang Yu had actually killed off both Thousand Miles of Blood and Landslides just a matter of time. After Thousand Miles revived, he ran out of the Archer's resurrection point and saw the emergency sign hanging on the church's roof. Before he could ask what was going on, Demon Dancing Withered Vine appeared at the resurrection point. The first thing Demon Dancing Withered Vine did after reviving was to send a message to Thousand Miles in the channel. "Boss, run. That person is here." Seeing Demon Dancing Withered Vine's message, Thousand Miles' face turned green. Damn it, did he have to be so fast? I've only just revived, and he's already caught up? Could it be that these two fellows were completely useless? Thinking up to this point, Thousand Miles said in horror, "Didn't I tell you to hold him back?" "I did," Demon Dancing Withered Vine said helplessly, "but that bastard killed me instantly. I succeeded in holding him back for a second. I don't know how long Mountain Breaker can hold him back. I held him back for 2 seconds." Just as Demon Dancing Withered Vine finished speaking, Mountain Breaker's voice suddenly came from the channel. "Boss, run to the teleportation point on the east side of the city. When he arrives, we'll help you hold him back." However, before Landslide could finish his sentence, the Thousand Miles Crimson saw a cluster of dark red flames flying towards the resurrection point at an alarming speed in the sky not far away. Who else could it be other than Wang Yu? He could fly so fast with a ball of terrifying flames wrapped around his body. F***CK. Why didn't you say so earlier? Seeing Wang Yu flying over, Thousand Miles felt a chill down his spine. He turned around and ran while cursing. Needless to say, Thousand Miles Crimson, who was a national archer, ran like a rabbit. He ran out of Central Street in an instant. Originally, Wang Yu was far away and there were many people at the resurrection point, so he didn't notice Thousand Miles. However, as Thousand Miles ran, Wang Yu saw him clearly. "Still want to run?" Seeing that the blood-colored mile was about to slip away, Wang Yu flapped his wings and flew across the roof to chase after the blood-colored mile. As a native of Afterglow City and the City Lord, Wang Yu obviously knew that there was a teleportation point not far east of the Central Street. Right now, the Quanjin sect and the Blood Alliance had officially declared war through the system. Although Wang Yu was the City Lord, he was also one of the parties involved in the war. Thus, during this period of time, Wang Yu's City Lord privileges were useless. He could not even close the teleportation point. As Thousand Miles ran to the teleportation point, Thousand Wang, you would not be able to use it. As a Grandmaster combat, Wang Yu is not as fast as an archer. However, her movement speed was not low either. In addition to the movement speed bonus from her wings and the convenience of her route, the distance between Wang Yu and the Crimson Thousand Miles was quickly closing. However, just as Wang Yu flew over the roof of the church, Thousand Miles suddenly opened his mouth at Wang Yu. Wang Yu was at a loss. He didn't know what Thousand Miles wanted, but it was most likely begging him to let him go. Wang Yu hadn't forgiven Thousand Miles yet. Even if he did, Wang Yu didn't have time to care about him, so he decided to ignore him. Just as Wang Yu was about to fly past Thousand Miles suddenly spat out a ball of flames at Wang Yu. It was common knowledge that humans weren't just creatures that lived on land. So, when a player was in the air or in the water, their movement speed would be greatly reduced. They wouldn't be able to move as smoothly as they did on land. Although Wang Yu was strong, Thousand Miles was only 2 to 3 meters away from Wang Yu. It was inconvenient for him to move in the air. Even if Wang Yu wanted to dodge the sudden attack, it would be difficult for him to do so. Since he couldn't dodge, Wang Yu raised his left hand and raised a round shield between himself and the flames. But at this moment, Wan Hua hurriedly chanted a strange incantation, and the ball of flames instantly spread out. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into a fire net that wrapped around Wang Yu. Thousand Miles chanted another strange incantation, and the fire net suddenly contracted. The wings on Wang Yu's back were immediately wrapped around his body, and Wang Yu himself was also tightly bound. This sudden attack caught Wang Yu off guard. Being trapped by 1,000 miles' net, Wang Yu was like a bird that had been shot, falling to the ground. 1,000 miles' fire net was a control skill. It was fine to catch a smuff like Mu Zixian, but catching Wang Yu was a bit of a fantasy. While falling, Wang Yu exerted strength in his arms. Pump! The fire net on his body broke free and turned into a cloud of smoke. However, in the time it took for him to break free, Wang Yu had already fallen 2 to 3 meters from the ground. Before Wang Yu could spread his wings and fly again, Mountain Breaker rushed over and used another taunt on Wang Yu, pulling Wang Yu to the ground once more. With a flash of golden light, the rest of the group also followed closely behind to surround him. The mountain collapsed and the ground cracked. The tower shield and arm shield had been shattered by Wang Yu. At this moment, there was nothing in his hands. When he pulled Wang Yu to his side, he was prepared to die. Since Mountain Breaker was so sincere about dying, Wang Yu, with his bodhisattva heart, would naturally grant him his wish. The moment Wang Yu landed on the ground, he followed up with a tyrannical chain punch and smashed it on Landslide's head. Without the protection of his shield, Mountain Breaker, who was an agile shield warrior, really couldn't take a beating. He was instantly turned into a ball of white light by Wang Yu. Mountain Breaker was responsible for the defense and control of the Scarlet 1,000 Miles team. Now that Mountain Breaker was dead, Golden Light, and the others naturally didn't dare to take half a step forward. After all, this killing god in front of them could kill Mountain Breaker with a single punch. The others wouldn't be able to take more than 3 punches and kicks. If they attacked one by one, they could at most delay him for 4 seconds. And if they attacked together, they could at most delay him for 1 second. With the sudden appearance of the Golden Light, the group of people felt bitter. They were people with smart chips, after all, and could be considered experts wherever they went. Now, they were actually beaten to the point where they could only count seconds. Who the F***CK could they argue with? After killing Mountain Breaker for the 3rd time, Wang Yu raised his head and looked at Golden Light and the others. Golden Light was shocked, and he hurriedly took a step back and waved his hands, saying, "Big brother, we don't dare." Scram! Wang Yu couldn't be bothered to talk to this group of trash. Okay, Golden Light flashed, and he responded. Then, he turned around and slipped into the resurrection point with the others. The resurrection point wasn't a safe zone to them, but could give them psychological comfort. Golden Light didn't forget to take revenge for himself. Did you see that? If we attack together, we could at most delay him for 1 second. Now, I can talk to him for a few seconds, and he won't die. Amazing, right? Chapter 1700. Of course, although the sudden appearance of Golden Light was shameless, this group of people had indeed played a significant role. The Crimson Mile speed was so fast that it didn't even care about its surroundings. With the few of them blocking it, the Crimson Mile had already reached the end of Central Street. It turned left and disappeared at the end of the street. According to the principle of turning corners, Wang Yu knew that if he followed behind the Crimson Mile, he would definitely be at his most lost. The only way to catch the Crimson Mile was to go to the end point and wait. Based on the Crimson Mile's route, it was obvious that it was heading to the teleportation point on the east side of the city. Wang Yu pondered for a moment, then leaped up and stepped on the wall to reach the roof. She then used her Qin Gong and ran towards the teleportation point on the east side of the city. Other than the teleportation point on the east side of the city, the teleportation point closest to Central Street was also a long distance away. Wang Yu looked down from the roof and could see all the routes to the other resurrection points, so he did not need to worry about the Crimson Mile changing its route. After all, Wang Yu was using Qin Gong to increase his speed to the extreme. Even though the Crimson Mile was a full agility archer, its movement speed was still much slower than Wang Yu's. Moreover, Wang Yu could fly and was taking a shortcut. If it changed its route, it would only be faster for Wang Yu to catch it. The Crimson Mile also realized this, so it did not even dare to look back as it ran towards the teleportation point on the east side of the city. Everyone learned in elementary school that the shortest distance between 2 points was a straight line. After Wang Yu activated Qin Gong, his speed was unparalleled. Although the Crimson Mile had a head start, Wang Yu was still able to catch up at an extremely fast speed. The distance between the two of them was getting closer and closer. In elementary school, Little Blood could run XX kilometers per hour, while Little Cow could run XX asterisk 2 kilometers per hour. Both of their destinations were the resurrection point in the east of the city. Little Blood would take Route A, while Little Cow would take Route B. Ask the two when they would meet. 1,000 Miles Crimson had always thought that the main characters in the math problems he learned in elementary school were all very abnormal. However, he never expected that he would become one of the main characters one day. The teleportation point on the eastern side of the city was very close to the central street. Half a minute later, 1,000 Miles Crimson finally saw the teleportation point and the NPCs inside. Hope was right in front of him. This was the first time 1,000 Miles Crimson felt that the NPCs at the teleportation point were so cute. However, before 1,000 Mile Crimson could rejoice, its vision suddenly darkened. Then a figure fell from above 1,000 Mile Crimson. 1,000 Miles Crimson looked up, and when he saw the person's face, he was scared out of his wits. He couldn't help but be shocked. Holy SH asterisk T. How did this bastard catch up to me so quickly? Where do you think you're going? In midair, Wang Yu also saw the panicking Crimson 1,000 Mile. He immediately shouted and extended his left hand. A white light swept towards the Crimson 1,000 Mile. Holy SH asterisk T. 1,000 Miles Crimson had seen Wang Yu's cloud capture fist before, so he knew how powerful it was. When he saw this, he couldn't help but be shocked. He hurriedly dodged Wang Yu's attack and ran towards the teleportation point with all his might. As he ran, he shouted, "Oh no, Iron Ox is killing people." It had to be said that 1,000 Miles Crimson was quite smart. He knew that players loved to watch a commotion. With his shout, he would definitely attract the attention of the players on the street. Once there were too many people, the road would be blocked. Once the road was blocked, it would be difficult for Wang Yu to catch him. The 1,000 Mile Crimson's little plan was very well thought out. However, the 1,000 Mile Crimson had miscalculated this time. Of course, it couldn't blame anyone else. It was the 1,000 Mile Crimson's fault for shouting out Wang Yu's name. Originally, when the players on the street heard that there was a show to watch, they had already turned their gazes over. However, when they heard that the murderer was Wang Yu, all the players on the street were stunned. Immediately after, they retreated and stuck themselves to the wall behind them like a pot sticker. Not only did 1,000 Miles Crimson's path not block, but it was also as if it had been cleansed. It wasn't hard to see that the overall quality of the players in Yuhuicheng was much higher than the players in other main cities. After all, the person chasing after him was Wang Yu. Between life and death, it was easy for players in Yuhuicheng to choose. When it came to running, Wang Yu had never been afraid of anyone. Of course, 1,000 Miles Crimson couldn't outrun Wang Yu, who used Qinggong. The instant 1,000 Miles Crimson stepped into the teleportation point, Wang Yu appeared behind 1,000 Miles Crimson, leaving a trail of afterimages behind him. Wang Yu stretched out his hand and grabbed 1,000 Miles Crimson's collar. At the same time, he kicked the back of 1,000 Miles Crimson's knee. Ah! 1,000 Miles Crimson screamed in pain as Wang Yu pressed him to the ground. The street around the teleportation point instantly fell silent. Everyone leaned against the wall, staring at 1,000 Miles Crimson, who was pressed to the ground by Wang Yu. Their faces were filled with confusion. Just what kind of god was this? How could he provoke such a god to personally chase after him? 1,000 Miles Crimson wanted to cry as he looked at the surrounding players in Yuhuicheng. What kind of world was this? Not only did no one dare to stop him from killing someone on the street, but no one even dared to watch the commotion. It was too dark. It's fine. Everyone, go back to your own business. Wang Yu felt slightly embarrassed after being stared at by Yuhuicheng's players. He hurriedly waved his hand at the players. After saying this, Wang Yu grabbed 1,000 Miles Crimson's leg and dragged him out of the teleportation point like a dead dog. After all, he was the lord of the city. Naturally, he had to set a good example for his citizens. Killing someone in front of so many people was not something to be proud of. Moreover, if he killed 1,000 Miles Crimson here, it would definitely run away. So, if he wanted to be clean and tidy, it would be best to drag 1,000 Miles Crimson to the Archer's resurrection point before killing him. If he died, he could resurrect without having to run around. It would be like killing monsters. When Thousand Miles Crimson saw that Wang Yu did not kill him on the spot, he naturally realized what Wang Yu was thinking. So, he hurriedly sent a message to Golden Light and the others. Hurry up and save me. F***CK. Seeing Thousand Miles Crimson's message, Golden Light and the others felt a headache coming on. He could not help but say, "We're at the Archer's resurrection point. I don't see you. I'm not dead yet." Thousand Miles Crimson snapped. "You ran away?" "No." Thousand Miles Crimson said gloomily, "I've been captured, and I'm heading to the resurrection point. If he kills me at the resurrection point, I'll be blocked. Hurry up and come." Hee hee. Chapter 17:01. Yeah. Thousand Miles was taken aback. Wang Yu smiled. Holding Thousand Miles in one hand, he used his left hand as a blade and swung it behind him. Bang! There was a flash of white light. Before Crimson Thousand Miles could see the person's face clearly, he was sent back to the resurrection point by Wang Yu. How is this possible? Seeing this white light, the Crimson Thousand Miles and the demon dancing vines in the resurrection point screamed at the same time. Golden Miles and the others were also dumbfounded. As the saying went, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Golden Miles and the others knew that Wang Yu was powerful, so they didn't dare to charge at him like before. So, when Wang Yu flew away, Demon Dancing Vine followed him to scout out the situation. However, before Demon Dancing Vine could reach the teleportation point, it saw Wang Yu return with Thousand Miles in his hand. Demon Dancing Vine didn't learn from its mistakes. Relying on its stealth, it approached Wang Yu. However, before it knew what happened, Wang Yu chopped its neck with a karate chop. Damn it, Demon Dancing Withervine's mood was absolutely King Dog. Without any detection tools or skills, an assassin's stealth was practically invincible. Even if it couldn't kill the opponent, it was easy for it to escape unscathed. In the end, Demon Dancing Vine lost to Wang Yu again and again. Its mentality was about to explode. When Demon Dancing Vine killed Demon Dancing Vine the first and second time, it could be understood that Wang Yu was trying to prevent an assassin from ambushing him. After all, the first two times had been a head-on confrontation. Experienced players would usually try to prevent an assassin from stabbing them in the ass. This was a responsibility to oneself, and also a form of respect to the opponent. But this time, it was completely different. The Demon Dancing Withered Vine was just scouting the situation and had no intention of fighting with Wang Yu. Wang Yu was just a passerby on the road. But Wang Yu suddenly attacked and killed the Demon Dancing Withered Vine. This was a bit strange. Stealth detecting tools weren't cheap, costing 100 gold each. Ordinary players wouldn't carry too many with them. Under normal circumstances, they would only use them in battle. Yet, Wang Yu wasn't in battle, and there were no enemies around her. Yet, with a single glance, she could spot an assassin in stealth. This was simply unbelievable. Could it be that this bastard was so rich that he could stab his eyes as he walked? Obviously, this was not possible. Probing tools didn't have a large range. Moreover, one had to bend over when inserting the eyes. Basically, one had to bow every 5 steps. Such a stupid and obvious behavior was definitely seen by the Thousand Miles Crimson. Eliminating this possibility, the most likely conclusion was that Wang Yu had technology that could not only increase one's strength, but also allow one to see everything. Oh my god! This King scientist. Realizing this, Golden Light abruptly's group, who had originally planned on saving Thousand Miles, couldn't help but feel a chill down their spines. Using a small advantage to fight back was the action of a hero. However, if they knew that they couldn't win, then they would die. This was the action of a retard. In the esports industry, it was called suicide. Everyone was an expert. Although they weren't the real deal, they wouldn't go so far as to commit suicide. Wang Yu dragged Thousand Miles closer and closer to the revival point. Xuanzhen's group had already destroyed 9 of Blood Alliance's residences. The system notifications of the residences being destroyed rang out in Thousand Miles' ears. Seeing the scenery on both sides of the street getting closer and closer to the revival point, Thousand Miles completely collapsed. When he had first taken over Blood Alliance, Thousand Miles had been in high spirits and had thought that Chuanjin was just an ant. If he didn't destroy Chuanjin, how could he return home? But now 1,000 Miles Crimson finally understood why Blood Red War Flag, as the leader of the Blood Alliance, had to be so polite to the Quanjin sect. It was also why Bloodwind Whisper and the others did everything they could to stop him from attacking the Quanjin sect. It was also why the players of the Blood Alliance chose not to resist when they heard that they were going to attack the Quanjin sect and even threatened to leave. Lying on the ground and looking at the meticulous and determined Grandmaster of Combat who was dragging him along, the questions that had puzzled Crimson Miles for a long time suddenly became clear to him. No wonder Chuanjin was able to suppress Blood Alliance and become Yu Huicheng's #1 guild. No wonder Sky Dragon City had to bow down to Yu Huicheng. No wonder no one dared to say anything even though such a small guild had 3 direct main cities and 2 subsidiary main cities. Looking at the Grandmaster of Combat in front of him, he had the answer to everything. The highest level of defeating an enemy was to kill their heart. With the smart ship, 1,000 Miles and the others could be said to be extremely confident in their own strength. After taking over Blood Alliance, 1,000 Miles' confidence swelled to an unprecedented level. However, after being suppressed by Wang Yu's strength time and time again, and seeing his guild's residences being uprooted one after another, 1,000 Miles of blood-swollen confidence was mercilessly torn to shreds and even trampled on a few times. At this moment, 1,000 Miles had lost the courage to continue fighting. In fact, his heart was filled with deep despair. The higher one's expectations, the harder they fell. 1,000 Miles couldn't believe that he had lost just like that. Moreover, he had lost so cleanly that he didn't even have the strength to resist. Was he too weak? No, the opponent was too strong. Of course, this was just how 1,000 Miles felt as a loser. Most of it was to find excuses for his failure. Even after a long time, Wu Ji still scoffed. 1,000 Miles' failure came from his arrogance and arrogance. Indeed, if 1,000 Miles had been more humble and united Blood Alliance, it would have been hard to say who would have won the guild war. Just as 1,000 Miles was feeling despair for himself, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his mind. Following which, 1,000 Miles' vision turned black and he lost consciousness. There was no sense of pain in the game. Being able to feel pain was obviously related to reality. When 1,000 Miles Crimson opened his eyes again, he was lying on the bed. Beside him was a middle-aged man with a worried expression. It was 1,000 Miles Crimson. Looking around, 1,000 Miles was at a loss and asked in surprise, What's going on? You're awake. How do you feel? Seeing that 1,000 Miles had woken up, 1,000 Miles' body trembled, and he turned his head to speak softly. Although his voice was soft, he couldn't hide his excitement. Why am I here? 1,000 Miles was still confused. Chapter 1702. 1,000 Miles Blood Smart Ship was a half-finished product. Its main purpose wasn't to increase the user's abilities, but to maximize the user's potential. It was like trying to forcefully increase the speed of a sports car. It might be fine at the start, but as time went on, it would overload and the driver would die. Fortunately, Rebirth had an emergency rescue system in place to prevent players with acute diseases such as heart attacks. If not, the 1,000 Mile Crimson would already be sitting on the bridge, drinking soup. Overload for a week? Hearing 1,000 Miles Blood's words, 1,000 Miles Blood was shocked and asked, What about the others? The others had some side effects, but it wasn't as serious as yours. They've recovered now. 1,000 Miles Blood said calmly, But why is it so serious? 1,000 Miles Blood was speechless. 1,000 Mile Crimson had been using this smart chip for a long time. Moreover, he knew a few players who used this chip. 1,000 Mile Crimson had obtained the chip from them. After using it for so long, other than feeling tired every time he went offline, he didn't experience any brain overload. However, this time, he was beaten to such a state. It was unbelievable. Thinking about it, what kind of opponent did 1,000 Miles Blood face in the past? Even if he didn't use the smart chip, he could still beat them. Thus, the smart chip wasn't that useful. However, who did 1,000 Miles Blood face this time? Wang Yu. The number one expert in the world, a person who could crush a god-tier boss into the ground, a person who gave game developers headaches. The difficulty of 1,000 Miles Blood's opponent jumped from easy to hellish. It was like a normal car being accelerated to the speed of a formula. It was reasonable for the engine to explode. What happened to Blood Alliance and Shuanjin? After thinking for a moment, 1,000 Miles Blood asked. The battle between Blood Alliance and Shuanjin was the start of everything. 1,000 Miles Blood didn't forget his original goal. We lost. 10,000 Miles Blood said calmly. Blood Alliance lost to Shuanjin, so all of the guild's assets belong to Shuanjin. Blood Red War Flag and the others have resigned after seeing the guild lose. This is a small matter, so you don't have to worry about it. TSK, TSK, TSK. Did you see that? This is what it means to be rich. To Wind Whisper and the others, the assets of Blood Alliance were more important than their lives. However, to 10,000 Miles, they were insignificant. After all, this guild was just an investment. It didn't matter if he had it, and it didn't matter if he lost it. It wasn't as important as his son's life. Oh, as for Blood Alliance's outcome, 1,000 Miles Blood wasn't surprised at all. Before he fainted, he had already seen this outcome. All right, a man should not be afraid of failure. Seeing his son in a daze, 10,000 Miles encouraged him. Don't be discouraged because of one failure. I'll give you another company to play with. Don't risk your life this time. Got it, Dad. 1,000 Miles Crimson nodded vigorously. The room was filled with a loving father and filial son. As the saying goes, don't use your annual salary to challenge my pocket money. There was no helping it. Reality was like this. In the game, you might have one against some people that you thought were weak, but so what? Things that you thought were important might just be some insignificant toys in the eyes of the losers. So, everyone had to control themselves when playing the game. Don't get hot-headed and go bankrupt to fight others. This was all from experience. Don't look down on Uncle Nyo's teachings. Uncle Nyo was just trying to increase the number of words. It wasn't easy to write, so cherish it. In Yuhuicheng, the sun was still high in the sky. The blood-like light shone on the city walls and the ground, making Yuhuicheng look even more tragic. It reminded people of the guild war between Blood Alliance and Shuanjin a week ago. However, what made people sigh was that 1,000 Miles of Blood was the only one who was sad. As for the Quanjin sect, Blood Whisperer, and all of the Blood Alliance players, they were the ones who made 1,000 Miles of Blood feel sad. After getting rid of 1,000 Miles Blood Alliance, no one from Blood Alliance dared to go against Shuanjin anymore. According to the agreement, Blood Red War Flag and Wind Whisper spent 1 million gold to redeem all of Blood Alliance's assets from Shuanjin. Before 1,000 Miles Blood Alliance's corpse had even turned cold, the two guilds split Blood Alliance up, one taking the money and the other taking the items. Such a blatant split-up wasn't very nice. The players in Yuhuicheng weren't kids. Anyone could see how 1,000 Miles Blood Alliance had died and how Blood Alliance had survived. After this battle, not only did all the players in Yuhuicheng see Shuanjin's methods, it also shocked all the other guilds in Yuhuicheng. Don't think that just because your guild has developed for a while, you can challenge Shuanjin's sect position. Whether or not Blood Alliance was strong, didn't they still die for no reason? Actually, whether or not there was 1,000 Miles Blood, or even whether or not there was a Blood Alliance, did not have much of an effect on Afterglow City's players. Everyone could still live their own lives and farm their own dungeons. After all, even without the Blood Alliance, there were other guilds. On top of Yuhuicheng's walls, Shuanjin's group was sunbathing in boredom. Logically speaking, everyone had been playing the game for a long time. Every day, they would fight for resources to strengthen themselves. It was obvious that they had forgotten that the purpose of playing the game was to relax. It was rare for everyone to come out and relax, so all the players in Shuanjin gave themselves a day off. They gathered at the most comfortable and eye-catching spot on Yuhuicheng's walls to chat and drink. This was much better than in real life. Even if you threw trash all over the ground, the system would refresh it for you. It was quite convenient. On top of the walls, Wuji lit up a bonfire and was rolling up his sleeves as he barbecued meat. Wang Yu sat on the steps and hugged his wife with one hand. He didn't hold back as he grabbed the meat and ate it. Chuanjin's dogs looked at him with a toothache. Wu Ji was also gnashing his teeth, wishing he could spit on the barbecued meat. However, he had no choice. A wise man did not fight when the odds were against him, and a gentleman did not stand under a collapsing wall. Under the tyranny of the great demon king Wang Yu, Wu Ji could only curse Wang Yu's 18 generations of ancestors in his heart. Wang Yu was also very bad. He knew that Wu Ji thought highly of himself, so he punished Wu Ji to be his cook for a week. Chapter 17:03. Putting aside Wang Yu's fancy ways of abusing the dogs, this way of playing the game was indeed quite satisfying. Everyone was already tired enough at work, but after work, they still had to work hard in the game. This completely deviated from the original purpose of the game. This was also why there was a group of players in the game who didn't fight monsters, but were passionate about traveling. From this, it could be seen that they were a group of people who truly knew how to live. Of course, knowing how to live was one thing, and knowing how to play the game was another. After all, everyone yearned to be outstanding. Not everyone liked to live a life of despair. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the Chuanjin dogs lined up against the city wall and dozed off under the afterglow of the setting sun. Just as everyone closed their eyes to rest and enjoy the afterglow, Yang Na suddenly pointed at the sky and said, "What's that?" "Yeah." Hearing Yang Na's words, everyone's hearts trembled. They suddenly became alert and quickly looked in the direction Yang Na was pointing at. Then, everyone was confused. "Is there something in the sky? Why don't I see anything?" "Yeah, I don't see anything either," the exquisite dog said in confusion. It was fine if the others couldn't see it, since they weren't archers. However, the exquisite dogs were like Yang Na. They were all archers and had the passive skill Eagle Vision. Logically speaking, as long as Yang Na could see it, the exquisite dogs would definitely be able to see it too. "Look carefully." Seeing everyone looking at her suspiciously, Yang Na said anxiously, "It's under the sun, a small red." "Is that so?" Seeing that Yang Na didn't seem to be joking, Wu Ji took out his spectacles and looked again. This time, Wu Ji finally saw what Yang Na was talking about. It was a red dot the size of a grain of rice. It looked like a bug, more like a star. Under the light of the setting sun, it wasn't eye-catching at all. It was hard to tell if it had always been there or only appeared recently. It had to be said that although Yang Na was an archer, her eyes were really sharp. Even though Wu Ji was using spectacles that enhanced his vision, he wouldn't have noticed it without Yang Na's reminder. As expected of someone who practiced martial arts, her every move could terrify ordinary people. Why didn't I notice it before? Looking at the little red dot, Wu Ji couldn't help but let out a sigh. Let me see. Hearing what Wu Ji said, the other Chuanjin dogs immediately couldn't hold back. They jumped up one after another to grab the glasses from Wu Ji. Even though Wu Ji was the leader of Chuanjin, his subordinates were still far from being able to compare to a group of animals in Chuanjin. After all, he was a priest. How could he be a match for a combat profession when it came to snatching items? One after another, Wu Ji was covered in sweat, and his glasses were forcibly snatched away. "Damn it, be careful. You can't afford to pay for it if you break it." The players in Chuanjin never knew what order was. After the glasses were snatched from Wu Ji's hands, they immediately fell out with each other. They fought over who would be the first to play with it. Seeing the group of animals snatching the glasses and fighting over them again, Wu Ji anxiously cried out. This pair of glasses was Wu Ji's lifeblood. Usually he would hide in the corner of the wall and peep at girls and wives because of this thing. If he broke it, Wu Ji would go crazy. Just as the Chuanjin people were fighting over the glasses, a big hand suddenly reached out from his side. Before everyone could see who the owner of the hand was, a voice sounded in everyone's ears. "Give it to me, let me see." The voice was deep and magnetic. It sounded very familiar. Who else could it be but Wang Yu? Everyone was speechless. They looked at each other and helplessly handed the glasses to Wang Yu. Actually, there were only a few people in Chuanjin. It didn't matter who was the first to look at the glasses, but whoever looked at it first proved that their status was higher. The reason why everyone was fighting so hard was because this group of bastards didn't want to admit defeat. After all, everyone's strength was about the same, and no one dared to say that they would win. If they went out to fight one-on-one, it would hurt their brotherhood. They could only fight over such a small matter. However, Wang Yu was different. Wang Yu was a lot better than this group of people in Xuanzhen. In terms of strength, there was no need to compare at all. Therefore, when Wang Yu made his move, everyone was speechless. If they were not happy, they had to hold it in. What else could they do? Fight one-on-one with Wang Yu? It was just playing with the glasses. Was there a need to put their lives on the line? You owe me another favor. Wang Yu took the glasses and rolled his eyes at Wu Ji. Then, he passed the glasses to Mu Zixian beside him. Mu Zixian smiled at everyone awkwardly, but politely. She casually put on the glasses and looked up into the sky. This is when Mu Zixian saw the little red. She couldn't help but be slightly stunned. After a long time, she said in surprise, "This looks like forbidden spell." Forbidden spell? Hearing Mu Zixian's words, everyone in Xuanzhen was also stunned. It was no secret in Xuanzhen that Mu Zixian used to be the customer service of Longting Gaming Company. However, everyone knew that customer service was just customer service and not a real game GM. She didn't have high authority in the game. Although she had more authority in the game than ordinary players, it was limited. Her insider information couldn't even compare to those veteran players who had a good relationship with the high-level GMs of the game company. However, everyone knew Mu Zixian very well. They knew that she wasn't the kind of person who pretended to know what she didn't know. However, that red dot looked very ordinary, and most people couldn't even see it. Mu Zixian said that it was a forbidden spell. This was a little unbelievable. One had to know that forbidden spell was the top magic in the game. Under normal circumstances, it required a few people, a dozen or even 100 people to use a magic array to activate it. Once a forbidden spell was activated, it would destroy the world. It was a little too arbitrary to say that a mere red dot was a forbidden spell. Sister Nyo, Wu Ji scratched the back of his head and said, "Are you seeing things? When a forbidden spell is activated, it causes a lot of commotion. What kind of forbidden spell is this little red dot?" "I'm not seeing things," Mu Zixian said with certainty. "This magic is the forbidden spell in the game's promotional video. This is within the scope of my business. I won't get it wrong. The reason why you think it's small is because the forbidden spell is very far away from the world we live in. Very far away from us." Hearing Mu Zixian's explanation, everyone in Xuanzhen couldn't help but feel a numbing sensation on their backs. If it was really as Mu Zixian said, that this magic was very far away from the world, and that Yu Huicheng could barely see it, it was obvious that this forbidden spell was as big as a small planet. Chapter 1704. The forbidden spell had such a huge area of effect. Even a rock of the same size would be enough to destroy Hero's continent, let alone a summoned spell. Xuanzhen's group could be considered the top group of players in the game. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were experienced and knowledgeable. Everyone had heard of NPCs with great destructive power. However, the most terrifying destructive power they had heard of was the Black Dragon Long Outyin, who had destroyed Sky Dragon City with a single breath. However, compared to this thing, Long Outyin was basically a mouthful of phlegm. There was probably no one else who could have such terrifying power other than the system. Because of this, although no one questioned Mu Zixian's words, they still kept their opinions to themselves. After all, Rebirth had only been released for a year, and the system had already summoned a forbidden spell to destroy the entire game. How unreliable must the game company be to do something like that? However, just as everyone was astonished by Mu Zixian's words, the red dot in the sky expanded a little. From an initial size of a grain of rice, it expanded to the size of a pinky nail. The others could also faintly see a trace of its outline. What was more terrifying was that the ball of red light was spreading at a speed visible to the naked eye and approaching the ground. Even the players below, Yu Huicheng, noticed the strange phenomenon in the sky. They stopped and pointed at the red dot in the sky. In just a few minutes, the ball of red light had expanded to the size of a palm. The Chuanjin players, who were standing on high ground, could clearly feel the wind pressure brought by the ball of red light. At the same time, the tide of the sunset lake outside Yu Huicheng miraculously rose. The originally calm lake water surged out of the lake uncontrollably, instantly drowning the players who were training by the lakeside. The monsters in the sunset forest outside the city seemed to have sensed something terrifying descending, and they actually ran around like headless flies. The sunset forest was the main training area for the players in Yuhuichen. It was fine if the monsters went berserk, but the players who were training were in trouble. For a time, the setting sun forest was bathed in white light, and smoke and dust rose into the air. The players grinding in the forest did not even know what had happened before they were trampled to death by the nearby monsters. The red light in the sky grew brighter and brighter. Everyone could feel the aura of death. The people of Quanzhen also started to believe Mu Zixin's words. The rampaging monsters, the rising tide of the lake, and the aura of death were all signs of the end of the world. Rebirth was a full simulation game, and the gaming experience could only be described as realistic. As the apocalypse approached, it was truly immersive. Some of the more timid players could not stand the terrifying atmosphere and simply chose to go offline. Of course, this historical moment was destined to be recorded in the history books. Although most players were afraid, they did not choose to quit the game. Instead, they chose to live and die with their main city. At this moment, the game forum was in an uproar. Not only Yu Huicheng and the Heroes continent, but even the other continents also saw this terrifying red light. Death wasn't scary, but waiting for death was. Now that the leveling area was in chaos, all the main cities automatically closed their gates. Everyone crowded in the city and turned on the camera system, slowly recording this historical moment. An hour later, the red light expanded to dozens of meters. The dazzling light completely covered the sun in the sky, and the entire game world became a strange scarlet color under the light. The players finally saw the true face of the red light. This red light was actually formed by a huge star surrounded by blood-red flames. It was smashing toward the ground at an extremely fast speed. Everyone crowded in the main city, and outside the city, there was a tsunami. Other than the players' expectant faces and the NPCs' expressions of despair, the current scene was exactly the same as in the promotional video of Rebirth. Obviously, as Mu Zixin had said, this star was a forbidden spell. The forbidden spell's name was also very simple and crude, and it was called the Star of Extinction. In the history of Rebirth, the nightmare of the reborn world, the Dark Invasion, started from the Star of Extinction. In other words, the so-called forbidden spell was actually the start of a brand new expansion. Just as everyone stared at the red star in the sky, waiting to be smashed to death, suddenly, a light blue magic shield that looked like an eggshell lit up in the sky above the main city. At the same time, all the magic towers in the main city's mage academies, which had never been lit up before, lit up at the same time. Mentors of various professions appeared in the magic towers, and their bodies also burst out with different colors of light. With the help of the various professions' mentors, the magic towers began to gather energy. The red star was getting closer and closer to the ground, and the energy gathered by the magic towers was also getting stronger. The two rays of light were pushed to the extreme by their respective powerful forces, and all the players were blinded on the spot. Suddenly seeing that they couldn't see anything, the players who were originally calm immediately panicked. Boom! Just when everyone was in a state of panic, a thunderous sound suddenly rang in their ears. In the four main continents of Rebirth, hundreds of magic towers in the main cities attacked the red star in the sky at the same time. According to the background of Rebirth, after resisting the first invasion of darkness, the surviving mages spent their entire lives to erect magic towers all over the world and left behind inheritances. Their purpose was to resist the invasion of darkness again. Although the Star of Extinction was a terrifying forbidden spell, The magic circle of the magic tower was also extremely powerful. With hundreds of magic towers in the main cities attacking at the same time, one could imagine the power. When everyone recovered from their blindness, the Star of Extinction had already been bombarded by the powerful power of the magic towers, and it had deviated from its original trajectory. It left a trail of blood in the sky above the reborn world, and then disappeared without a trace. Looking at the trail of blood in the sky, all the players were dumbfounded. It turned out that the most touching word in the world was a false alarm. While everyone was still reminiscing about the terrifying scene, a system announcement rang in the sky. Announcement. With the joint efforts of the mentors, the forbidden spell Star of Extinction has been jointly destroyed. However, the powerful impact of the magic power has caused dimensional chaos. Spatial cracks will randomly appear in all the main cities, and the power of darkness is slowly seeping into the whole world. Powerful warriors must unite and protect our home. The system announcement sounded 3 times. The meaning was obvious. This world was saved, but the power of darkness had begun to invade. At the same time, all the players who had experienced this CG animation of destruction also received a buff. Chapter 1705. It had to be said that the release of this new expansion pack was quite a gimmick. Watching the release of the expansion pack actually gave players double the rewards. Dark Invasion was an expansion pack that had been announced before the open beta of Rebirth. The gods and demons destroyed the world, and the brave people of the continent rose up to fight back, creating a heartwarming epic. This was also the most primitive hero complex that every player had buried in their hearts since they were young. With the release of such an exciting expansion pack, all the players went from death to life, from despair to a false alarm, and the emotions deep in their hearts were completely stimulated. The gods and demons descended, and the world of Rebirth ushered in a new era. A new epic was about to begin. Soon, the content of this expansion pack appeared on the official forum page. Due to the intense energy collision between the Star of Extinction and the Magic Tower, spatial rifts appeared everywhere in the game. Not only did all kinds of demons come to this world through the spatial rifts, but even the so-called celestial rays came to the main cities of the major dark factions through the spatial rifts and quickly occupied the leveling areas. The primitive monsters in the leveling areas were also stained with the aura of the gods and demons, and their attributes were greatly increased. However, what made the players even more excited was that while the monsters' strength increased, so did the drop rate. In fact, this was the most practical thing. After all, to the players, the drop rate was the most important thing. The drop rate in Rebirth was not high. One had to know that the activation condition of the Dark Invasion expansion pack was that more than 60% of the players in the game had reached level 60. It had been almost a year since the launch of Rebirth, and the average level of the players was around level 60. The top players were already over level 65, and the crazy players like Wang Yu were about to reach level 70. However, the mainstream equipment of the players in the game was still gold grade, and the higher the level, the harder it was to drop it. Especially the equipment above level 40, the drop rate could only be described as ridiculous. So far, even among level 60 players who had a gold grade set equipment, more than half of their equipment was below level 40. Even the first-rate players from the Quanjin sect had low-level equipment. To place one's pride, for example, even his weapon was only level 20 for a top expert like Wang Yu. Even the shoes on his feet and the ring on his hand were all below level 40. As for the other players, it was needless to say. Equipment levels had a very important effect on equipment quality. Even if it was a divine weapon, its level was too low, and its main attributes could not compare to a high-leveled whiteboard. This way, it was easy to cause a generation gap in a game, creating an awkward situation where a group of low-leveled monsters had no experience and high-level monsters could not be defeated. The release of the Dark Invasion expansion pack could be said to be a timely help to the players, alleviating the awkwardness of the players who were stuck between a rock and a hard place. In fact, the purpose of the game was very obvious. It was to shorten the distance between the new players and the old players so that the old players could wait for the new players. Otherwise, the game would not have set up such a trigger. After the release of a new expansion pack, not only did the drop rates of ordinary monsters increase, but the drop rates of monsters that came to this world through spatial rifts also increased. In the official forums, it was even mentioned that these invading gods had a chance of dropping divine relic fragments. This immediately ignited the fighting spirit in the hearts of all the players. They raised their weapons and rushed to the leveling area. Even lifestyle players rarely left the city. They bullied the monsters at the entrance, hoping that they would drop a divine weapon. Everyone had a dream of being a hero. Who didn't want to ride a rainbow cloud and wear a holy golden robe to slay monsters? Of course, it was not that easy to obtain a divine weapon. The invading gods were very strong, and they were all boss monsters. Ordinary players would only be sending themselves to their deaths if they encountered them. However, at least it gave the players without good equipment a glimmer of hope. To place one's pride, for example, was instantly excited when he heard that the monsters could drop divine relic fragments. It had been a year. To place one's pride had been using the level 20 weapon for almost a year. To place one's pride was very high-spirited when he first obtained the weapon. He spoke in Xuanzhen with an unyielding tone. To place one's pride watched as his companions obtained divine weapons one after another. Moreover, each of them was stronger than the other. To place one's pride's heart was filled with disappointment. However, things like divine weapons were things that could only be chanced upon. To place one's pride could not possibly force the system to conjure one for him. To place one's pride was overjoyed when he heard the news. He pulled the Xuanzhen members to their knees and begged bitterly, "Uncles and grandpas, please help me get the divine weapon." His voice was filled with tears. Everyone was heartbroken. They asked themselves if they had bullied this poor child in the past. He even took advantage of the situation and said, "Why don't you join the fun and call everyone daddy? Go to hell." To place one's pride was furious. He then looked at Wang Yu with a bitter expression. Uncle Nyo. To place one's pride naturally knew that divine weapons were not easy to obtain. It was one thing for those bastards from Xuanzhen to not be able to help him, but they also liked to kick him when he was down. Only Wang Yu was the most reliable person. Wang Yu was just about to agree when he suddenly received a system notification. System notification, your mentor, Hermit, seems to be looking for you. Seeing the system notification, Wang Yu could only shrug and say, "I'm afraid I don't have the time for now. My mentor just sent me a message." There is a saying in the gaming circle, NPCs don't come without a reason. It meant that NPCs would definitely be looking for players to issue a quest. Hermit was naturally looking for Wang Yu because of quest. With Hermit's personality, there was an 80% chance that it had something to do with a class quest. Of course, Wang Yu couldn't accompany to place one's pride to hunt divine weapons. It wasn't that Wang Yu wasn't loyal. It was just that obtaining divine weapons was a bit unrealistic. Aside from the difficulty of the monsters, obtaining divine weapons was a very time-consuming task. The system only told the players that there was a chance of obtaining divine weapons. It didn't say which monster or where. The game was so big. How long would the players have to fight for? Even if they could get it, who knew how many pieces there would be? 1 or 2 pieces was still manageable. 7 or 8 pieces was also normal. If there were 100 pieces, wouldn't the players be exhausted to death? Even if they managed to get all the pieces, it would be a quest item called Divine Weapon Shard. With how shameless the game designers were, they definitely wouldn't have any psychological burden doing something like this. This bunch of bastards who loved to be stabbed. Although Wang Yu was willing to help others, she was not to the extent of not being able to distinguish her priorities. For the sake of this illusory project of imbue pride, she would delay her profession advancement mission. Chapter 1706. After experiencing the Star of Extinction, the alley behind Yuhuicheng's Central Street was as dark as ever. In the past, Wang Yu had no money. Now that he had money, and he was Yuhuicheng's city lord, he wanted to buy a house for Hermit to live in. This wasn't because Wang Yu was filial to an NPC, but as Hermit's only successor, He didn't feel comfortable seeing this old man living like a beggar. However, today, Old Man Hermit didn't act like he usually did. Instead, he was dressed neatly and sat there waiting for Wang Yu with a serious expression on his face. Wang Yu had played the game for a long time, but this was the first time he saw Hermit like this. He wasn't used to it. Walking up to Hermit, Wang Yu greeted him respectfully. "Teacher, you were looking for me? You're here." Hearing Wang Yu's voice, Hermit slowly raised his head. After sizing up Wang Yu, he said in a gratified tone, "You've grown a lot during this time." "Teacher, why are you looking for me?" Obviously, Wang Yu didn't want to listen to Old Man Hermit's nonsense. When this old man wanted to trick someone, he would say something nice first. Wang Yu had long since figured out his routine. Ahem. Seeing that Wang Yu didn't fall for it, Old Man Hermit coughed awkwardly and said, "When blood covers the sky, the seeds of war will be scattered on the earth. When the gods and demons destroy the world, as the successor of martial god, you must shoulder your responsibilities." System notification. You have triggered the class quest, Martial God's Responsibility. Do you accept? As expected, seeing the system prompt, Wang Yu was not surprised at all. This was the only reason why the Old Man Hermit would look for him. Class quests were storyline quests that every player had to complete. Of course, he couldn't refuse them. Wang Yu casually chose to accept the quest, and then said, "Teacher, please guide me." Good. Seeing that Wang Yu accepted without hesitation, Old Man Hermit sighed and said, "As expected of the successor of the martial god, you are indeed responsible and courageous. I didn't misjudge you." This shameless old man. Even when praising others, he didn't forget to include himself. After a bunch of disgusting flattery, Old Hermit finally gave Wang Yu a mission. When the gods and demons descend, the people will be plunged into misery and suffering. Your mission is to stop all this from happening. Are you messing around? Before Hermit could finish, Wang Yu almost broke down. He anxiously shouted, "Let me make this clear first. I'm not going to seal those spatial rifts. The gods and demons descend through the spatial rifts created by the Star of Extinction. To stop all this, the most direct way was to seal all the spatial rifts. There were 4 continents in the world of reincarnation. The other 3 continents had their own legacies and had nothing to do with the national server. However, the national server alone had 300 main cities. The map of every main city in reincarnation was not small, and the number of spatial rifts was innumerable. If the Old Man Hermit asked Wang Yu to seal these spatial rifts, Wang Yu would have to spend his entire life on this quest. Moreover, the monsters that came out of the spatial rifts had a high drop rate and a lot of EXP. Every main city and every guild wanted more of them. Even if Wang Yu really wanted to seal them, wouldn't he become the enemy of the whole world? Why did this Old Man Hermit have to force him to die every time? You want to seal them, but do you have that ability? Old Man Hermit curled his lips and said, "These spatial rifts were created by the energy of the Star of Extinction and the Magic Tower. Even I can't repair them. How can you do it? Do you think you've reached the god level?" Wang Yu's face turned red. It seemed like he had overestimated himself. "Don't be discouraged." Seeing that Wang Yu was a little embarrassed, Hermit waved his hand and said, "Although your ability is low and not enough to repair the spatial rifts, there's one thing that only you can do." "Teacher, please say it." Wang Yu said humbly, "Go to Holy Light City and Darkness City and bring me the heads of the Son of the Holy Soul and the Lord of the Demon Soul." Hermit said calmly, "Oh." Wang Yu thought about it and said, "Where are these 2 items? Are there any hints?" Holy Light City and Darkness City were the 2 biggest main cities of the 2 factions. Although finding the 2 heads in these 2 main cities was easier than sealing the spatial rifts, it was like finding a needle in a haystack. However, in response to Wang Yu's question, Hermit said, "On their necks." "Necks? Alive?" Wang Yu said in surprise. "That's right. They're both level 100 god-level bosses." Hermit nodded and made a fist gesture at Wang Yu. He casually said, "Do your best. I believe in your ability." Damn, Wang Yu was speechless. He could see that Martial God was a cheat, and his successor was also a cheat. Even if he wasn't a cheat, this old man hermit would still force players to become cheaters. After secretly cursing the old man hermit, Wang Yu asked with a face full of black lines, "I can understand killing the Lord of the Demon Soul, but why do you have to kill the son of the Holy Soul? From a name, he's a god of the light faction. Shouldn't we help him?" "Hey, what do you know?" Hearing Wang Yu's words, Hermit couldn't help spitting out, "What bullshit gods and demons? Not a single one of them is good. They're all jackals of the same tribe." After saying this, Hermit asked Wang Yu, "Do you know what the Dark Invasion is?" "I don't know." Wang Yu shook his head. The real Dark Invasion is actually the work of these so-called gods and demons. Hermit sighed and told the truth of the so-called Dark Invasion to Wang Yu. In the world of rebirth, the light faction and dark faction were absolute opposites, but the dark faction was mainly composed of humans, orcs, and some elves. Just like the light faction did not have the gods, the dark faction did not have the demons, only the followers of the gods and demons. In layman's terms, the world of rebirth was the battlefield of the gods and demons. The humans, orcs, and even the elves are the natives of this world. The two dark invasions were actually two wars between the gods and demons. In front of the powerful gods and demons, the natives were as lowly as ants. They had no ability to resist and could only choose to follow the gods and demons. Thus, there were the light faction and the dark faction. Of course, this world also had creatures that were as powerful as the gods and demons, such as the dragons and the titans, who could control their own fate and the balance between the gods and demons. Their strength was not enough to fight the gods and demons for territory, and the gods and demons did not want to provoke them. These guys were collectively known as the neutral faction. Chapter 1707. The essence of war was the destruction of life. No matter which race the gods and demons occupied the dominant position, they would certainly continue to target the neutral camp that did not care about worldly affairs. When that time came, it would be a reign of terror. Therefore, whenever one side's power was out of balance, the neutral camp would come out to balance the power of both sides. There was no such thing as good or bad in the philosophy of the gods and demons, and there was no such thing as justice or evil. There was only the destruction of the weak by two powerful races. The believers of the gods and demons had their own opinions, firmly believing that the other was the root of all evil. Little did they know that the gods they believed in were the masterminds behind everything. The reason why martial God slaughtered the gods and demons and sealed all the powerful existences that were superior to humans was because he knew better than anyone that the so-called gods and demons were the most ridiculous lies in the world. Even the Star of Extinction was actually summoned by the gods and demons in order to get their hands on the reborn world. Their poor believers were still waiting for their gods to redeem them. However, the one who could really save them from being slaughtered was the successor of martial God. Damn. So dark? After listening to Hermit's narration, Wang Yu could not help but be shocked. After playing games for so long, although Wang Yu did not have a good impression of the gods in the background story of the game, the gods had always appeared in a righteous image. He did not expect the background story of the game to have such a hidden truth. This made it difficult for Wang Yu, who had already accepted that the gods were the righteous side, to accept it for a while. But after the shock, it was followed by a sudden realization. No wonder martial God wanted to seal all the strong people in this world, including the flame monarch Nephisto. No wonder martial God wanted to design an artifact, the God-killing bow. It turned out that the enemies of humans were not the opposing camp from beginning to end, but the gods and demons who use humans as pawns. The people of Atlan City had been sunk to the bottom of the sea by the gods because they did not submit to the gods and did not study the power that surpassed the gods. The Titans had been exiled to the land of extreme cold because they did not submit to the rule of the gods. Yu Huicheng had been besieged by millions of believers when he broke away from the control of the gods. All of this was a clear indication that the gods and devils in this world were no different from each other. They were all extremely ugly and ugly. If it were Wuji and the others who received this quest, they would not have been so moved. After all, they had played games for so many years and had seen all kinds of ridiculous plots. However, this was Wang Yu's first time playing a game. Moreover, it was Rebirth, a simulation game with a strong sense of immersion. One could imagine how moved Wang Yu was. Not bad. Hermit nodded. You'd better hurry up. The Son of the Saint Soul and the Lord of the Demon Soul are both God-rank existences. The reason why they're only at level 100 is because they've just descended and their strength is still weak. When you go, it's best to bring some companions. Weakened state. As soon as Hermit said that, Wang Yu was speechless. Are you reliable or not? I'm only level 69, and you want me to kill a level 100 God tier boss? Why don't you just ask me to die? As a player who often fought with God tier bosses, Wang Yu's understanding of these high-level bosses was far better than any other player's. The high-level bosses in Rebirth were roughly divided into two types. One was at peak condition, and the other was in a weakened state. As the name suggested, the upper limit of the boss was the current level of the boss. For example, the level 80 Lord of the City Willie's strongest state was level 80, and the attributes of his skills were also within the level 80 range. This type of boss was relatively easy to deal with. Even if it was higher than Wang Yu's level, Wang Yu could still use his own skills to easily kill it. On the other hand, weakened bosses were different. These bosses' original levels were much higher than when they were at peak condition. It was only because of some external reasons that they were at their current level. Although these bosses' levels were not high, their skills and attributes were all weakened versions of their original attributes. For example, between the same level 10 bosses, a boss at peak condition could at most spit a fireball at the player, but a weakened boss could spit a fire dragon at the player. The power of the skill was not even mentioned, but the effect of the skill was on a completely different level. It was basically like a high-level player playing with a lower-level boss. These so-called children of the Holy Soul and Lord of the Demon Soul were not to be trifled with. There was no guarantee that they could cast a miniature forbidden spell with a wave of their hands. They were completely different from level 100 bosses at peak condition. Wang Yu had fought many weakened bosses before, so he knew how terrifying God tier bosses were. Like God Luke was only level 80, and he was already so difficult to deal with, let alone two level 100 weakened God tier bosses. Don't be so nervous. You could bring a teammate this time. Hermit continued to bluff. I don't believe you, you old man. You're so evil. Wang Yu resisted the urge to point his middle finger at Hermit. My teammates are even lower than me. What's the point of bringing them? Are they just going to die? Are you embezzling the quest items again? Huh. Hermit laughed shamelessly. Don't make it sound so bad. How is this embezzling? I'm just testing your intelligence. As he spoke, Old Man Hermit took out two giant swords and handed them to Wang Yu. I'm sponsoring you with these two celestial weapons. These are the last wishes of Lord Martial God. Take them. I knew it. Wang Yu curled his lips and took the two swords. Speaking of level 100 bosses, Wang Yu was not afraid. After all, as a master-level martial artist, there were very few things in the world that could make Wang Yu afraid, not to mention a set of data in the game. The reason why he did this was because Wang Yu knew the NPCs in Rebirth too well. Otherwise, Old Man Hermit would have hidden the two swords. Against these shameless people, one could not be too honest. However, when Wang Yu saw the attributes of the two swords, he almost cursed out loud. The two swords had very simple names. One was called the Cyanine Sword, and the other was called the Violet Sun Sword. The attributes of these two swords were also very strong. They were both epic weapons, and when combined, they could form the legendary celestial weapon Purple-Green Yin-Yang Sword. It was practically the best weapon for warriors. However, the level requirement for these two weapons was 100. Only 4 people in Xuanzhen could wield these two swords. Other than the two warriors, Bao San and Yin Lao Air, there were 2 grandmasters of combat, Wang Yu and to place one's pride. The highest level of these 4 was Wang Yu, but he was only level 69. A weapon with a level requirement of 100 probably wouldn't be used this time next year. Are you kidding me? Wang Yu said angrily. How do I use this thing? None of my business. Old Man Hermit rolled his eyes at Wang Yu. I've already given it to you. Use it however you want. If you don't want it, return it to me. Chapter 1708. F***CK. Seeing Hermit's expression, Wang Yu was on the verge of breaking down. He had seen shameless people, but he had never seen someone this shameless. He wanted to take back what he had given away. Was Wang Yu the kind of person who would let others take advantage of him? Even if he sold these 2 swords for gold coins, he would not be able to return them. Oomph. Wang Yu snorted and threw the 2 swords into his backpack. He used his actions to show his disdain towards Hermit, then walked out of the alley without looking back. Not only was Hermit not angry, but he also smiled cheekily. Good luck, I believe in you. After leaving the alley, the contents of Wang Yu's quest window had changed. Quest objective: obtain the head of the son of the Holy Spirit 0/1. The head of the Lord of the Demon Spirit 0/1. Quest hint: this quest is quite difficult. It is best to form a party. The quest hints in Rebirth were all invaluable. Since he had given such a hint, it would not be easy to complete it alone. Although Wang Yu was fearless, he was not arrogant. Not long ago, Wang Yu had fought with the Lord of Light Luke, so he knew how strong a celestial boss was. Luke was only a level 80 boss, while these 2 were level 100. They were 20 levels higher than Luke. Of course, Wang Yu would not be confident enough to fight a celestial boss that was more than 30 levels higher than him. What is everyone doing? Opening the guild channel, Wang Yu casually sent a message. Although Wang Yu was a noob, in Rebirth, Wang Yu had many more friends than anyone else in Chuanjin. However, for quests, it was better to find a brother that he could trust. Leveling. Very soon, Quan Zhun and the others replied. They asked all at once, "Old cow, are you coming?" The experience gained from killing monsters now is more than the experience gained from the instance dungeon. We just occupied a treasured land with good feng shui. It seemed that the effects of this update were quite obvious. The EXP from monsters had increased quite a bit, and with the double reward from the system, this was the best time to farm monsters. Old cow, what's up? In the end, Wuji was still the smart one. He immediately guessed that something must have happened to Wang Yu for no reason. It's nothing big, just a mission. Wang Yu said, it's just a quest. Hearing Wang Yu say this, everyone said, is it even a problem for you? If Wang Yu's strength was about the same as everyone else's, they would only need to call out to him and follow him. However, Wang Yu was a terrifying existence who had single-handedly killed the radiant God King Luke. The people from the Quan Jin sect really did not think that someone like him would need their help to complete a mission. Moreover, leveling up in the game was a big deal. The double income only lasted for a short month. Everyone was busy leveling up. If they slacked off even a little, they might be overtaken by others. Why should they sacrifice their time for useless work? That's true. Wang Yu took a screenshot of the 2 swords attributes and sent it to the guild channel. I saw that this quest reward are quite good, so I wanted to bring you guys along. Since you guys are busy, I'll look for someone else. This is a quest reward? Seeing Wang Yu's screenshot, everyone in Chuanjin was stunned and could not help but ask. Meow, 2 epic raid weapons. What kind of quest is this? It's so generous to actually give divine weapons. And he's giving them both at once? To be precise, it should be a deposit. Wang Yu said honestly. My instructor was afraid that I would quit, so he gave it to me to fool around. I don't know what the rewards are. Ayaya, what did old cow say just now? As soon as Wang Yu said this, everyone in Chuanjin immediately stopped leveling and asked in unison. I said, you guys go ahead. I'll look for someone else. Wang Yu said. The previous sentence. I have a quest. Wang Yu said, we have nothing to do, so we'll help you with the quest now. The Chuanjin dogs said in unison again. Aren't you guys leveling up? Wang Yu asked. You're treating me like an outsider by saying that. Spring Xiang said shamelessly. My brother's business is my business. Leveling up isn't something important. How can it affect the relationship between us brothers? That's right, that's right. The others agreed. That's right. To place one's pride also said, we're good brothers, huh? Seeing this, everyone glared at To Place One's Pride. To Place One's Pride shuddered, and he quickly changed his words. You're my good Uncle Nyo. If I don't help you, who will? In the beginning, The Chuanjian dogs said that they were busy because they did not want to cause trouble for Wang Yu and did not want to delay their own leveling. However, after seeing the equipment in Wang Yu's hands, the nature was completely different. Meow. The deposit was 2 divine weapons. How amazing would the final reward be? It was not Chuanjian style not to take advantage of such benefits. F*CK. Seeing the Chuanjian dog's high-sounding words, Wang Yu was speechless. I'll be waiting for you at the tavern. Come quickly. We'll be there soon. After receiving Wang Yu's message, the Chuanjian dogs immediately left the station and chose to return to the city without hesitation. The Chuanjian dogs could all fly, so their movement speed was quite fast. After 10 minutes or so, they returned to Huicheng from the leveling area. When they arrived at the tavern, Wang Yu was sitting at the bar, drinking and chatting with the tavern owner. At this time, everyone was leveling up and farming equipment in the wild. Wang Yu was the only player in the entire tavern. It was boring to drink alone. In order to curry favor with the city lord, the tavern owner flattered Wang Yu so much that he did not know whether to pay attention to him or not. The arrival of the Chuanjian dogs at the tavern helped Wang Yu out of his predicament. Seeing the Chuanjian dogs at the tavern, Wang Yu hurriedly stood up as if he had been pardoned. Why are you guys so late? What kind of quest is this? It's so awesome. The Chuanjian dogs were also straightforward and asked the moment they saw each other. A storyline quest. Wang Yu formed a party and added everyone into the party. Then, he opened the quest window and clicked on the quest share. F*CK. Seeing Wang Yu's quest, the Chuanjian dogs almost vomited blood, killing level 100 divine bosses, and 2 of them at that. Was this a F*King quest for a human? Although Wang Yu usually killed bosses like cutting melons and vegetables, that was because Wang Yu was not an ordinary person, but a martial arts master. In addition, he had a full set of divine weapons. He was like a walking cheat. Of course, ordinary bosses would not be a match for Wang Yu. However, for ordinary players, although bosses were something that could only be encountered but not sought, they were also creatures that were equivalent to casualties. Putting aside the ultimate bosses like divine and legendary bosses, even if ordinary players wanted to successfully kill a dark gold or epic boss of the same level, they would not be able to do it without suffering dozens of casualties, let alone a level 100 boss. Chapter 1709. It was no wonder that the deposit for this mission was a divine artifact. This was clearly an impossible mission. At this moment, everyone from the Chuanjian sect regretted coming to help Wang Yu. After all, such a difficult mission was surpassing himself for Wang Yu, but it was suicide for others. It probably wouldn't be of much help even if they followed. But since they were already here, it would be inappropriate to say that they didn't have time. There was a limit to how shameless the people in Chuanjian could be. Moreover, Wang Yu was a very loyal friend. No matter how much they regretted it, they had to follow Wang Yu to complete the mission. Old cow. After sighing, Wuji said, Do you have a grudge against the designer? Why do you ask? Wang Yu was puzzled. Of course. Wuji pointed at the mission. It's fine if you say it's a hidden mission, but how can a storyline mission be so difficult? Wang Yu was a noob, but Wuji wasn't. As a veteran in the online gaming circle, Wuji's knowledge of games wasn't much lower than that of the game designer. As a type of mission to push the game forward, the nature of the mission was similar to the operation guide at the beginning of the game. Such a mission might be difficult, but in theory, it wouldn't be too difficult. At the very least, it had to be within the scope of the player's ability. Otherwise, wouldn't the player be stuck at the plot and not be able to continue the game? After all, storyline missions were different from hidden missions. Players could ignore hidden missions, but storyline missions had to be done. Not all players in the game had many expert companions. On the contrary, most players were normal people. If the storyline missions were designed to be extremely difficult, it would definitely cause a large number of players to leave the game. Without players, the game would be useless. But Wang Yu's mission was good. He had players who weren't even level 70 challenge to level 100 mythical bosses. This was clearly a scam. No one would believe that Wang Yu didn't have a grudge against the game designer. Who the hell knows? Wang Yu waved his hand and said as if it was normal, "Anyway, it's like this every time I take a mission for this class. I'm used to it, awesome." Everyone gave a thumbs up when they heard this, and they emitted heartfelt praise towards Wang Yu. There was a reason why Wang Yu was so strong. This was a quest that ordinary players wouldn't even dare to think about, but he was already used to it. Ordinary people were all the same, but there were all kinds of abnormal people. Sacred Light City was not far from Yuhuicheng. It would only take 30 minutes by airship. 30 minutes later, Wang Yu and Xuanzhen's group successfully arrived at Holy Light City. Holy Light City was already so magnificent, and the white-toned buildings always gave people a holy and inviolable aura. As one of the largest main cities in the Heroes continent, it currently had a population of more than 1 million. Even the port was bustling with people. The only players from the Quanzhen sect who had been to Holy Light City before were Wang Yu and Yang Na. After disembarking from the airship, Wang Yu led the Quanzhen sect members into Holy Light City according to the route she remembered. Did you see that? Back then, someone was chased like a mouse here. When they arrived at the familiar city gate, Wang Yu remembered the scene when he first came to Light City. He couldn't help but expose Yang Na's shortcomings to the Xuanzhen people. Yang Na retorted with a dark face, "It's only in Light City that I've seen someone's despicable face. Thank the divine light god." Back then, Wang Yu killed Yang Na and took the quest item. Although he had no choice but to run away, his actions were definitely not honorable in the eyes of martial arts practitioners. Thank the divine light god. Wu Ji also said piously, "If it weren't for the divine light god, our Xuanzhen wouldn't have one more powerful expert. Thank the divine light god." Ultimate Huckster said with a swindler's face, "And it's a beautiful woman." It could be said that Xuanzhen's group of bastards were despicable. Wang Yu had just offended Yang Na, and they quickly stood on Yang Na's side. This made Yang Na's impression of Wu Ji and the others rise sharply. At the same time, she gave Wang Yu the middle finger. TSK. Faced with this group of shameless people, Wang Yu curled his lips in disdain. "Thank my ass. I've already killed the divine light god." "Nyogu, is that you? Am I seeing things?" Just as Wang Yu and the others were talking nonsense, a voice suddenly rang out from the city gate. Hearing someone calling her name, Wang Yu hurriedly raised her head and looked in the direction of the voice. She saw a player standing in front of her. The player looked familiar, but Wang Yu couldn't remember his name. Meeting someone who looked familiar but didn't recognize them. This sort of thing wasn't rare in the game. Everyone was used to remembering names. Moreover, Wang Yu hadn't been to Light Saint City for a while now. It was normal for her to not recognize someone she had met once. The player seemed to realize that Wang Yu didn't recognize him and quickly introduced himself. "I'm Eternal Dawn. Did you forget, young Master Dawn?" Oh, after hearing the player's words, Wang Yu finally remembered who the person in front of her was. This guy was known as the Holy Cities for Young Masters. The first time he came to Light Saint City, he was the one who screwed over his guild. The ones who chased Yang Na all over the streets were also his subordinates. However, these guys put aside their differences and hired him to do quests. They could be considered friends. Wang Yu understood and couldn't help but be surprised. "I didn't expect you to still recognize me after so long." Wang Yu had almost forgotten about this guy. Of course, Eternal Dawn patted his chest and said, "Who do you think you are, Brother Bull? I often see you on the announcements and have even watched your matches." At this point, the Eternal Dawn sized up Wu Ji and the others and hurriedly said, "Brother Nyo's friends are also gods. You flatter me." As expected of a young master from a wealthy family, he was really good with words. With just one sentence, he was able to make the Xuanzhen sect's donkey smile from ear to ear. Wu Ji smiled humbly and asked Wang Yu, "Is this little brother your friend?" Normally, Wu Ji couldn't be bothered with these passers-by. Eternal Dawn introduced him to the people behind him. "Do you see him? This is the legendary god Iron Ox. I told you I was very familiar with him." "Yeah, friend." Wang Yu nodded. Hee. Wu Ji glanced at Eternal Dawn and the companions behind him. He squinted his eyes and walked in front of Eternal Dawn and the others with a smile. "Brothers, what are you doing?" Seeing Wu Ji's expression, The Chuanjian people were stunned. According to their understanding, Wuji would only show such an expression when he wanted to trick people. Chapter 17:10. What do you know? Can't you see that they're blocking the way? Wuji sent a disdainful emoji. He's probably Old Cow's friend. If he was a stranger, we would have charged in already. They're doomed anyway. Setting him up will save him a few times. I'm saving him. Is there anyone else as benevolent as me? Seeing Wuji's explanation, the Chuanjian hounds were slightly stunned. They all gave him a thumbs up. Wuji is benevolent. We admit defeat. Of course, Wuji said shamelessly. Don't you know that doctors are benevolent? As a clergyman, benevolence is my most valuable asset. F***CK. Seeing Wuji's shameless words, Wang Yu was speechless. If he wasn't smart, he would have believed Wuji's nonsense. At this time, Eternal Dawn replied, It's all because of Hua Xiao. Because of his lousy quest, our entire guild isn't at peace. Hua Xiao. Wuji tilted his head and revealed a puzzled expression. Yang Na said, He's called Hua Xiao from Beijing. He's a Templar with a hidden class and is best friends with this guy. At this point, Yang Na didn't forget to glare at Eternal Dawn, causing him to be dumbfounded. Little did she know that it was also because of Hua Xiao's quest that Eternal Dawn and the others chased Yang Na all over the city. Just a moment ago, Eternal Dawn had even used this matter to mock her. How could Yang Na have a good impression of Eternal Dawn? Women were very vengeful. Oh, what quest? Wuji asked curiously. Since you're Niu Ji's friends, you're also my friends. I'm not afraid to tell you. Eternal Dawn said, Didn't the game release an expansion pack today? The Holy Church sent a team of angels. One of the archangels commandeered the church and gave Hua Xiao a quest to ensure the safety of Holy City in 3 days. See, you guys came right after our guild set up a blockade. Blockade? You're going to seal the city? Wang Yu asked. Not really. Eternal Nirvana replied. The archangel said that no strangers are allowed into the city for the next 3 days, so the resurrection point, teleportation point, and city gates have all been sealed. I see. Hearing this, Wang Yu nodded lightly. Wuji was indeed a smart person. As soon as he saw the eternal silence of dawn blocking the door, he guessed that this group of people was related to his quest. He didn't expect his quest to be two-way. Old Man Hermit had said that the son of the Saint's soul and the Lord of the Devil's soul were in a weakened state after descending and needed some time to recover to their peak. Eternal Silent Dawn's archangel also said that he wanted Hua Xiao to protect him for 3 days. This made perfect sense. As a Templar, Hua Xiao was also a hidden class. It seemed that this two-way quest was actually a collision between two storyline quests. There could only be one winner in a two-way quest, which meant that only one person could advance to the next stage. From this, it could be seen that the system was really evil. The storyline quest actually had a collision. Wasn't this clearly a trap for the hidden class? However, seeing that Hua Xiao's storyline quest was only to be a guard for 3 days, Wang Yu was also depressed. Meow, it was also a hidden class. Why did he have to kill 2 celestial bosses in addition to the collision quest? This was 2F***king unfair. As the saying went, there was no filial son in front of a sickbed, and there were no brothers in quest. As the name suggested, there was no brotherhood in front of quest. At the end of the day, a game was a game. This was like playing mahjong. I can't deliberately give in to you just because you're a friend. If you're the boss, I have to admit defeat. Then what's the point of playing? Wang Yu had played the game for a long time. Of course, he understood this logic. Even if Eternal Silence was in his position, he wouldn't take the initiative to withdraw from this two-way quest. Wang Yu naturally wouldn't give up the quest just because they met once. Thinking of this, Wang Yu immediately wanted to have a showdown with Eternal Silence. But halfway through his words, Wuji quickly took over Wang Yu's words and said, You guys can't do this. As he said that, Wuji said in the guild channel, Old Cow, don't talk. Seeing Wuji's message, Wang Yu had to shut his mouth helplessly. Oh, Boss Wuji, why do you say that? Seeing that Wuji questioned his behavior, Eternal Silence asked inexplicably. Wuji smiled faintly and said, "The idea is good, but your method of sealing the city won't be able to seal people." "It can't be." Eternal Silence's face showed a trace of displeasure when he heard that. Eternal Dawn didn't have any problems with this second-generation rich kid, but he was extremely confident in his own tactics. The siege hand strategy was suggested by Eternal Dawn, but Wuji said that it wouldn't work. On the surface, Eternal Dawn was too embarrassed to directly refute Wuji, but in his heart, he was extremely dissatisfied. He continued, "Although our guild's players aren't as strong as Nyoga, they're still experts. Right now, the Resurrection Point and Teleportation Point of Holy Light City are filled with our people. Why can't we seal them off?" "Oomph," Wuji said disdainfully. "Only normal players can be locked down. Do you think you can stop players who can climb walls?" This Eternal Silence was stunned by Wuji's words. Wasn't that right? Back then, how did Wang Yu escape? Wasn't it because this kid knew how to climb the walls? Everyone was helpless against him. At this stage of the game, most experts with some ability would have a climbing skill book in case of emergencies. Although there weren't many who could climb walls, there's still quite a few. It can't be so coincidental. Eternal Silence still held a trace of hope that his blockade would be successful. "Why not?" Wuji sneered and said, "What kind of place is Holy Light City? How can a normal player come here to cause trouble? Isn't it easy for them to climb walls?" Wuji lived up to his reputation as a godly hoodwinker. With just a few words, Eternal Silence was completely dumbfounded and unable to refute. Seeing that Eternal Silence was speechless, Wuji continued, "The longer the blockade, the more loopholes there will be. It's not something that can be solved by sealing off a few checkpoints." As expected of Neo-Ge's friend. Although Wuji didn't have any good intentions, what he said was not nonsense. These were all very important principles of the art of war. Eternal Silent Dawn, who was well-versed in tactics, could naturally understand the logic behind Wuji's words. Seeing that Wuji was able to say such words, he immediately determined that Wuji was a person of true ability. He immediately retracted his arrogance and asked humbly, "Then what should we do now?" Chapter 17:11. Controllable Range? Eternal Dawn asked blankly, "How large is a controllable range?" "The size of a church," Wuji said after giving it some thought. "A church?" Eternal Dawn frowned. He nearly slapped himself. Just like what Wuji said, the blockade line had to be shortened no matter what. The reason why Eternal Silent Dawn brought people to seal off the revival point and transfer point was so that he could control the blockade line, and the blockade line could control the entire area. However, after Wuji's reminder, Eternal Dawn realized that although he had done his best to shorten the perimeter, he had not gotten to the main point. While sealing off the entrance and exit points could seal off the entire city, the longer the perimeter was longer, the more loopholes there would be. Invaders might not be able to escape. If he surrounded the church, not only would he save players' resources, but he would also do his best to protect the church. Eternal Dawn was also confused by the quest contents. The quest's prompt was to guard the church and prevent outsiders from approaching. Eternal Dawn immediately focused on sealing off the church, completely forgetting that the quest's essence was to protect the people inside the church. Thinking up to this point, Eternal Dawn could not help but exclaim, "That makes sense. Boss Wuji's words have enlightened me. I'll have my people withdraw and defend the church." "Huh, not at all." Wuji waved his hand and added, "Actually, there's no need to withdraw. It's safer to set up two perimeters. The outer perimeter will block off the entrance and exit points, which can filter out ordinary players. This way, we only need a team of top-tier experts to seal off the church. Moreover, we can prevent invaders from calling for help." Yes. Boss Wuji is right." Eternal Dawn was filled with admiration as he listened to Wuji's explanation. What was a perfect setup? What was seamless? What was flawless? What was flawless? Wuji's explanation was incisive. It seemed that he was still quite a distance away from the strategist of a pro league champion team. However, Top-tier experts. Eternal Dawn rubbed his chin awkwardly at the mention of top-tier experts. Eternal Dawn had quite a few experts under him. After all, Eternal Dawn had spent money to hire these people. His subordinates were quite skilled. However, these top-tier experts were still useless. Eternal Dawn had set up a guild to nurture fighters, not to compete in a professional league. Of course, he wouldn't burn his wallet to hire a professional team to act as his bodyguards. Hence, when it came to top-tier experts, Eternal Dawn was put in a difficult position. After all, top-tier experts weren't cabbages that could be found anywhere on the street. Let's go. Just as Eternal Silence was in a dilemma, Wuji suddenly called out to the players behind him. Since Light Saint City has been sealed, we won't be taking a stroll around the city. Let's head straight to the leveling area. Old dog Wuji, what do you mean? Hearing Wuji's words, Mingdu asked in the guild channel in confusion. Are you trying to increase the difficulty of our quest by saying all this nonsense? You know nothing. Don't you know how to play hard to get? Do you think this kid will believe that you're with him so easily? Wuji rolled his eyes at Mingdu. Eternal Dawn wasn't an idiot. No matter how much of a friend Wang Yu was, at the end of the day, he was still an outsider. If he volunteered to help, it would definitely raise Eternal Dawn's suspicions. Now, Wuji helped Eternal Dawn sort out his thoughts and dispelled some of his suspicions. Then, he purposely revealed that he was only passing through Light Saint City. This way, Eternal Dawn's last bit of suspicions would disappear. At this moment, Eternal Dawn, who was in a dilemma, heard Wuji's words and couldn't help but shiver. I can wear out iron shoes in fruitless search, but by chance, I found a top-tier expert. Isn't a top-tier expert right in front of me? The group in front of me is a professional league champion, especially Wang Yu's strength. Eternal Dawn had personally witnessed and experienced it. If these people weren't top-tier experts, then there probably weren't any top-tier experts in the game. Everyone, please wait. As expected, Wang Yu and the others hadn't even taken 2 steps when Eternal Dawn suddenly called out to them. What is it? Is there something else? Wuji said impatiently. I've said what I need to say. What you do is up to you. We still have to hurry. It's not that. Eternal Dawn panicked. Where are you guys going? The Holy Land of Light next door, Wuji said. For some reason, Huicheng doesn't have a direct airship there. Ha! Eternal Dawn laughed. The first district is the capital of the Holy City. Flying objects can't be used there, so the cities in the first district can only teleport to the Holy City. Even the port is outside the city. No wonder, Wuji said with a look of understanding. Thank you for telling me, brother. Why are you guys going to the Holy Land of Light? Eternal Dawn asked. It's nothing, just strolling around, Wuji said. Eternal Dawn heard that the Chuanjin people were just strolling, and he was overjoyed. Since you guys have nothing to do, let's stroll around the Holy City. This is not good. Wuji glanced at the players behind Eternal Dawn and said, Isn't Holy City on lockdown? We won't give you any trouble, right, old Neo? At this point, Wuji raised his chin at Wang Yu. Yes, not bad. Wang Yu nodded and said, The game is so big. Where can't we stroll around? Why will we make things difficult for you? It's not difficult. It's not troublesome at all, Eternal Dawn said with a smile. Actually, there's a reason why I asked you guys to stay. Oh, what reason? Wuji raised his eyebrows, puzzled. Hee. Eternal Dawn laughed embarrassedly. Our guild has many experts, but we don't have an expert like you guys. No way. Without waiting for Eternal Dawn to finish, Wuji immediately waved his hand and said, Chuanjin will never join any guild alliance. No. Eternal Dawn saw that Wuji misunderstood his meaning and hurriedly explained, I just want to hire you guys to help us guard the church. What do you guys think? Hire? Hee. As soon as Eternal Dawn said this, the Chuanjin people could not help but laugh. Of course, they laughed because the shameless Wuji was actually so good at tricking people. Not only did he trick Eternal Dawn into letting a wolf into the house, but he also King tricked Eternal Dawn into spending money to let the wolf in. Eternal Dawn did not know what the Chuanjin people were thinking. When he saw them sneer, he thought that the Chuanjian people were expressing disdain for his words, and he immediately panicked. Chapter 17:12. Of course, it's like thunder piercing my ears. Eternal Silence gave a thumbs up and said sincerely, "In Rebirth, there might be people who didn't know who the Quanjin sect was, but everyone had definitely heard of the Motley Crew. An unknown grassroots team had defeated the strongest team in the country, 9 states, and won the championship of the Pro League. They were at the peak of their career. How could the common players with dreams not know the name of the Motley Crew? They came from the people, so they should go back to the people. It's good that you know." Wuji pointed at the Chuanjian members and said, "Although my underlings aren't that great, they still have some reputation. It's not good for them to be hired thugs for no reason. Even trash needs face." When he said the word trash, Wuji pointed behind him again. Everyone was silent as they looked at Wuji, who was passing judgment on the world. Wuji felt that there was something wrong with everyone's gaze. He quickly turned around and saw that his finger was pointing at Wang Yu. Cough, cough. Seeing that Wang Yu was looking at him with a dark expression, Wuji quickly coughed and awkwardly retracted his finger. He pretended that nothing had happened and asked Eternal Silence, "Do you understand what I mean?" "Yes, I understand." Eternal Silence quickly said, "Everyone is Nyo Ji's friend and a famous expert. I will definitely not mistreat everyone. We don't lack that bit of money. How about 10,000 gold coins a day?" According to the quest requirements, Eternal Silence and the others had to guard Light Saint City for 3 days. 3 days would be 30,000 gold coins. With the current exchange rate of gold coins, that was 300,000 RMB. Such a price was not considered low. However, Wuji raised his eyebrows and asked, 10,000 per person? Hey, that's more than enough. After hearing Wuji's words, before Eternal Silence could say anything, Wang Yu shouted in the guild channel, "No matter what, he's an acquaintance. You're going a little overboard." Wasn't that right? Everyone wanted to take advantage of Eternal Silence Dawn in the first place. Money didn't really matter. Eternal Silence Dawn's asking price wasn't low, but Wuji actually raised it by 10 times. This was Chuanjian style. If the other party was a stranger, Wang Yu definitely wouldn't say anything. However, Eternal Silent Dawn was an old acquaintance. Wuji's actions made Wang Yu feel somewhat apologetic. Hee. Unexpectedly, Wuji chuckled and said, "Don't be nervous. We're worth it. Maybe he'll even thank us." This, after hearing Wuji's price, Eternal Silent Dawn couldn't help but tremble. There were 11 people in Chuanjian. At 10,000 per person, 3 days would be 330,000. His asking price was only a fraction of that. Eternal Silence wasn't lacking in money, but he wasn't one of those rich kids who spent money like water. This price was indeed a little high. That boss Wuji. Eternal Silence frowned and said, 10,000 per person. Even Team 9 States wouldn't ask for this price. Team 9 States? Wuji heard this and said with disdain, "Who do they think they are?" After hearing Wuji's words, Eternal Silence was completely speechless. All right, he was used to bargaining with pro players. He forgot that these guys in front of him had pushed Team 9 States to the ground. Although this price was a little high with their status, it wasn't unreasonable. With an old friend like Wang Yu here, and Chuanjian asking for such a high price, it seemed that these guys were really unwilling to accept this quest. This actually dispelled the last bit of doubt in Eternal Silence's heart. Damn, if Chuanjian was here to cause trouble, why would they ask for such a sky-high price and scare me away? Eternal Silence smiled and said, 10,000 per person then. We can afford it. Brother Eternal Silence is indeed generous. Wuji nodded and praised, but we at Chuanjian have a rule. If you want to do something for someone, you must first collect money. Eternal Silence's mouth twitched, and he almost cursed out loud. But then he thought about it. The more these guys didn't want to accept the quest, the more reliable it was. Anyway, the monk could run, but the temple couldn't. It didn't matter if they paid first or later. All right, give me the money first then. Eternal Silence sighed and took out a bag of money and handed it to Wuji. Awesome, awesome. Seeing that Wuji was able to swindle more than 300,000 gold coins with just a few words, the Chuanjin people immediately admired him from the bottom of their hearts. No wonder people said that they would rather offend Iron Ox than Wuji. If they offended Wang Yu, they would at most be killed a few times. It was just a superficial pain, and it wouldn't take long for them to train back. They wouldn't be able to withstand any substantial damage. But if they offended Wuji, that bastard could trick Eternal Silence into spending money to be cheated. He could even sell you off and make you count the money. Not only would he punish you financially, but he would also humiliate you mentally. He would kill you in a real sense. Hee hee, it's because I'm familiar with it. Wuji humbly replied to everyone, then turned to Eternal Silent Dawn and said, since we've accepted the money, we'll do what we have to do. I guarantee that no one other than us will be able to enter the church. Hurry up and take us there. Thank you, big bosses. Eternal Silence nodded excitedly and ordered his subordinates to guard the city gate. He then led Xuanjin's group into the city. Wuji didn't forget to say to Wang Yu, what did I say? He spent money and still has to thank us. You're a sinner. Wang Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It couldn't be helped. Although Wuji's actions were a bit of a jerk, it was ultimately for Wang Yu's quest. Wang Yu wasn't someone who didn't know what was good for him, so he naturally wouldn't look down on Wuji because of this. Holy Light City was more than 3 times the size of Yuhuicheng. Under Eternal Silence's lead, they finally arrived near the legendary Holy Light Cathedral after walking for more than 10 minutes. As the largest cathedral in the Heroes continent, the Holy Light Cathedral had always been the Holy Land of the Vatican. Its architectural style was even more magnificent. The designers had directly moved the Holy Court from the real world into the game. Although they were still quite a distance away from the cathedral, everyone could still feel the solemnity of the cathedral. Mingdu looked around and said, you can only look when you're a god. Old cow, aren't you afraid of retribution for stirring up trouble in God's territory? TSK, Wang Yu said disdainfully, I'm a righteous person. Why should I be afraid of ghosts? I even threw firecrackers at this cathedral before. Fuck, Mingdu was speechless. And he even killed a red-dress cardinal, Yang Na added. Wuji also said, the Light God King was also killed by Old Cow, right? Chapter 17:13. This is the church. After arriving at the entrance of the church, Eternal Dawn pointed at the main door of the church and said, there are 4 doors in the Church of Light. This is the main door, and the others are small doors. They are relatively easy to guard. Ayaya. Chun Xiang glanced at the terrain near the Church of Light and sighed. The feng shui here is not good. The main door is facing the intersection, and it's easy to be destroyed. Next time the Divine Light God builds a house, he must look for me to check the feng shui. Eternal Dawn was dumbfounded when he heard Chun Xiang's words. Ignore him. Wuji waved his hand and said, architects love to spout nonsense. Then I'll have to trouble everyone. Eternal Dawn ignored Chun Xiang and respectfully cupped his fists at the Chuanjin people again. You're too kind. Wuji was a little embarrassed and said, we're really sorry for what you said. I have to apologize on behalf of them. Sorry? Eternal Dawn was confused again. This Chuanjin people were as crazy as the rumors said. They were clearly speaking human language, but why couldn't I understand them? That's right, Wuji said with some guilt. We have no choice but to do a 2-way quest. I hope you can understand. After saying that, Wuji gave Eternal Dawn a look behind him. At the same time, the air behind Eternal Dawn distorted. North Sea Fish appeared behind Eternal Dawn with the dagger in her hand. She held the dagger with both hands and stabbed it into Eternal Dawn's back. North Sea Fish was a great damage. Eternal Dawn only felt a chill on his back, and then the health bar on his head hit rock bottom. This, before Eternal Dawn could finish speaking, he turned into a ball of white light and disappeared in front of the Chuanjin people with a look of disbelief. My sins, my sins. Looking at the direction where Eternal Dawn disappeared, Wuji and the others sighed and then walked into the church. At this time, Wang Yu also received a message from Eternal Dawn. Damn, Nyoga, this is not right. It seemed like Eternal Silent Dawn had realized that he had been tricked. Eternal Silence didn't expect that not only did he invite a wolf into his house, but he also got cheated of a large sum of money. He never expected Wang Yu to be such a person. It can't be helped. It's a two-way quest. I'm afraid you won't believe me if I don't do this. I'll pay you back after we finish the mission. In the face of Eternal Silence's accusation, how could Wang Yu answer? He couldn't possibly push the blame to Wuji, so he could only use Wuji's excuse. As for paying back the money, Chuanjin was famous for taking in money but never paying back. The money must have come from Wang Yu's own pocket. After all, Wang Yu was still a person who cared about his reputation. Eternal Dawn was also a veteran player. Of course, he knew about the two-way quest. Hearing Wang Yu's words, Eternal Dawn was too embarrassed to ask for money from Wang Yu. He could only helplessly say, "Forget it. It's just a game. If you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose." After saying that, Eternal Silence closed the chat window with Wang Yu. At this time, Eternal Silence's message window exploded. After receiving the mission failure notification, Beijing's Hua Xiao immediately became anxious. He originally thought that his lockdown was foolproof. He didn't expect that someone would still sneak into the church. Moreover, it was so silent that he didn't feel anything. This was too strange. What's going on? What's going on? Beijing's Hua Xiao sent more than 10 messages to Eternal Silence. I've been tricked. Eternal Silence organized his words and summed up this failure in 3 words. Yeah. Beijing's Hua Xiao was stunned for a full 5 seconds before he realized what was going on. He immediately replied angrily, "Who's so daring to trick you?" Chuanjin. Eternal Silence helplessly told Beijing's Hua Xiao everything that happened just now. After listening to Eternal Silence's story, Beijing's Hua Xiao almost fainted from anger. Damn, no wonder the enemy entered the city quietly. It turned out that his own people invited them into the city. Then what do we do now? Beijing's Hua Xiao didn't dare to lose his temper in front of Eternal Silence, so he could only suppress his anger and ask, "What will we do?" Eternal Silence also said impatiently, "Chuanjin's people have already entered the church. Do you think we can still rush into the church and kill them? Moreover, don't you know what kind of person Chuanjin is?" This, Eternal Silence's words made Beijing's Hua Xiao speechless. The church was the place of the light god. The most taboo thing was to make noise. Normally, if one spoke too loudly in front of the church, they would be warned by the system that it was a challenge to the light god's dignity. The city's honor and faction's honor would be deducted. If they went in and started a fight, the outcome was obvious. Eternal Silence didn't arrange for his own guild members at the church's entrance because of this. Because the players in Light Saint City knew that the Church of Holy Light was a forbidden area, no one would normally stroll around the church. Therefore, Eternal Silence instinctively ignored the church. So what if he set up a blockade around the church? Just like last time, if Wang Yu threw a few firecrackers into the church, his own guild would be chased by the Templars. Moreover, Chuanjin's people weren't easy to deal with, especially Wang Yu, who was still a shadow in the hearts of Beijing's Hua Xiao. Even outside the church, Beijing's Hua Xiao didn't dare to face Wang Yu head-on. "It's all your fault." In the end, Eternal Silence didn't forget to scold Beijing's Hua Xiao. "What kind of lousy quest did you accept? You even made us suffer because of you." Beijing's Hua Xiao felt wronged. It was clearly his quest that was ruined by Eternal Silence. But this brat actually turned around and blamed him. Where was the justice in the world? Within the church, Wang Yu, who was interrogated by the Eternal Silence of Dawn, felt extremely guilty. She could not help but ask Wuji, "Isn't it just entering the church? We could have just flown in. Why do we have to get involved with the Eternal Silence of Dawn? Fly in?" Wuji laughed. "This is Light Saint City, not Yuhuicheng. Even airships aren't allowed to fly here. Do you think you can fly? Do you believe that the guard will pull out a siege weapon and shoot you down? Eternal Silence is stupid, but are you the same? I'm doing this because I don't want us to have to fight with them." Indeed, as an imperial capital, Light Saint City's setting was different from other cities. No living creatures were allowed in the upper rooms of Light Saint City. As such, the only way into the city was through the city gate. At this moment, the city gate was completely sealed. Once Wang Yu's group entered the city, it would definitely alarm Eternal Silence's group. A two-way quest was to make the players kill each other. When the time came, with Wang Yu's and Xuanzhen's methods, Eternal Silence's players would definitely die. If a fight broke out, Xuanzhen would definitely suffer losses. Chapter 17:14. The most important thing is... Wu Ji smiled again. We can still take this opportunity to earn some money. That's a scam. Wang Yu was speechless. One side is willing to fight, and the other side is willing to suffer. This is called a fair trade. Losing money avoids disaster. Wu Ji said shamelessly. Or do you want us to kill them all and give them compensation? Wang Yu's hands were strong, but his mouth was weak. Trying to argue with Wu Ji was just asking for trouble. Wu Ji's words left Wang Yu speechless. If it were anyone else, they would definitely be bragging if they claimed that they could annihilate Eternal Silence's guild with just a dozen or so players. However, since it was the Quanjin sect, it really wasn't impossible. There was no helping it. They had the strength to say such words. Don't worry. Wu Ji saw that Wang Yu was still in a dilemma. He patted Wang Yu's shoulder and said, a two-way quest doesn't mean that it's over if you fail. There will definitely be follow-up quests. Besides, this is a storyline quest. No matter how shameless the game designers are, they won't dare to interrupt the player's storyline. You're right. Hearing Wu Ji's words, Wang Yu felt relieved. The Church of Light was still solemn. Light shone down from the windows, and the entire church was bright. The holy elephant of the light god stood at the entrance. What was different from before was that there was a teleportation gate right below the holy elephant of light. Although the Church of Light was large, it was as clear as an auditorium. At this moment, there was no one in the church. It seemed that the son of the holy soul that Wang Yu was looking for was in this teleportation gate. Therefore, Wang Yu and the others walked up to the teleportation portal and stepped into it. At that time, the scene before everyone's eyes changed. When they regained their senses, they had already appeared in a garden. System notification: your party has activated the dungeon, Garden of Eden. The son of the holy soul, representing justice and peace, has awakened. Damn! Garden of Eden? Seeing the system notification, everyone was stunned. Awesome! Could it be that the full name of this son of the holy soul was Adam? Although no one had seen the so-called Garden of Eden, they had more or less heard of it. With this gimmick, the Garden of Eden designed by the game designers was not as gorgeous as the legend said, but it was still pretty decent. Exotic flowers and rare grasses, beautiful scenery, precious stones everywhere, graceful and luxurious, rare birds and beasts of all kinds. In the garden, the angels flew around in twos and threes. These angels all had pure white wings on their backs, but they looked completely different. The angel at the front of each team was clad in armor, holding a cross-shaped holy sword in one hand and a crusader shield in the other. He looked very heroic. The angel in the middle was dressed in a white robe. He held a staff that looked like a cross in his left hand and held the radiant oracle in his right. He had a pious look on his face. The angel at the back had the appearance of a child. It was exquisitely carved and looked very cute. It held a bow, an arrow in its hand. After casting the detection spell, the angel's information appeared before everyone's eyes. Guardian Angel, LV85, Elite, Protoss, HP, 300000 MP, 10000 skills. Judgment Sword, Holy Shield Strike Block. Talent, Holy Light Background Introduction. Angels descended from heaven to the human world through the space-time rift. They are the guardians of heaven and have indestructible defensive abilities. Angel of Judgment, LV85, Elite, Protoss, HP, 10000 MP, 200000 skills. Doomsday Holy Light, God's Condemnation, Reckoning. Talent, Holy Light Background Introduction. Angels descended from heaven to the human world through the space-time rift. They are devout believers blessed by the God of light and have indestructible destructive abilities. Executive Angel, LV-85, Elite, Protoss, HP, 800000 MP, 50000 Skills. Holy Arrow of Light, Celestial Eye, Seraphic Speed. Background Introduction. Angels descended from heaven to the human world through the space-time rift. They were originally elves playing among the flowers of the God of Light. After being blessed by God, they became the enforcers of the God of Light to punish the heretics. Level 85 Elite Protoss. After the release of the new expansion pack, angels and demons from heaven and devil came to the reborn world through the space-time rift. Xuanzhen's group had also seen these creatures from other dimensions in Yuhuichen. It had to be said that these monsters were quite strong. Ordinary Nephilim and Protoss monsters were much stronger than native elite monsters of the same level. As for the elite monsters with the Protoss and Nephilim symbol hanging on their necks, they were comparable to ordinary bosses. However, according to the game settings, the more powerful a creature was, the more energy it would take to pass through the space-time rift. Due to the instability of the space-time rift, although there were Protoss and Nephilim monsters in the wild, their levels were generally low. Elite monsters were also very rare. Today was the first day of the new expansion pack. The highest level Nephilim that Xuanzhen's group had seen was only level 50. They didn't expect to see a level 85 high-level Protoss here. As expected of the God of Light's lair, it was indeed a place with many treasures. The angels in front of them were a standard battle mage and archer team. As Protoss, these angels definitely didn't lack healing skills. This was equivalent to having a healer class. Such a team was very strong. It was almost equivalent to a boss team with control, defense, damage output, and healing. Fortunately, the game designers weren't that shameless. These angels patrolled in groups of 2s and 3s, but they kept their aggro distance from each other. It wasn't the kind of chain grenades that would cause a chain reaction. This was still quite humane. After all, it was a storyline quest. It was fine if the boss was strong and disgusting, but there was no need to make the monsters so overpowered. Otherwise, if a group of boss-like monsters swarmed over like a tide, the players wouldn't have any gaming experience at all. It was basically equivalent to asking them to quit. Since it wasn't a chain grenade, the difficulty was reduced significantly. Wuji waved his hand and ordered Yang Na, "Start the fight." Okay. Yang Na raised her hand and shot the Angel of Judgment in front of her with her crossbow. The Angel of Judgment was obviously a mage. As the main AoE damage dealer in the team, mages were usually the target. Whoosh! Yang Na's arrow whistled through the air and shot towards the Angel of Judgment. However, just when everyone thought that the Angel of Judgment was going to be hit by Yang Na's arrow, the guardian angel next to the Angel of Judgment suddenly raised its shield. Clang! Yang Na's arrow hit the shield and created a trace of sparks. The gazes of the three angels were immediately attracted. When they saw Wang Yu's group, the three angels shouted in unison, "The holiness of the God of Light is not to be violated. Invaders, you have blasphemed the territory of God. Unforgivable." Chapter 17:15. Whoa! These angels were quite hot-tempered. As he spoke, the executor angel at the back aimed an arrow at Yang Na. He loosened his grip, and a white beam of light shot at Yang Na. Yin Lao Air, who was at the front of the team, raised his shield and blocked the arrow. At the same time, the executor angel emitted a golden halo that enveloped the other two angels. The guardian angel held a shield in his left hand and a sword in his right, protecting the judgment angel and the executor angel behind him. Retreat. Seeing that the aggro of the monsters had been pulled, Wuji hurriedly ordered everyone to retreat. There were many angels in the Garden of Eden, and they were all patrolling. The elite monsters in the dimension all had the strength of mini-bosses. Wuji and the others had never come into contact with such high-level elite Protoss monsters. They didn't know how strong these three monsters were. If they weren't easy to deal with and attracted the other patrolling angels, Wouldn't that be asking for trouble? Although everyone wasn't weak and Wang Yu was strong, this was a game after all. The system had the final say on whether the players were strong or not. The system said that these Protoss monsters were powerful, so the players couldn't do anything about them no matter how good they were. Since it was an important mission, they naturally had to be more cautious. Only by knowing oneself and the enemy could one win 100 battles. Everyone in Xuanzhen was experienced. Even a newbie like Wang Yu, who had been with Xuanzhen for a long time, knew how to divert monsters in dungeons. After working together for so long, they naturally had a tacit understanding of each other. Before Wu Ji finished speaking, everyone in Xuanzhen retreated without a word. The players left the attack range of the three angels, and the three angels followed closely behind. Seeing that the three angels had left the patrolling route of the other angels, Yin Lao Air immediately lowered his head, raised his shield, and charged forward. The AI of these Protoss monsters was obviously much higher than that of ordinary monsters. As an elite monster, the Guardian Angel also had the intelligence to judge the enemy's attack method. Seeing someone hit it with a shield, the Guardian Angel spread its wings, raised its shield, and counterattacked Yin Lao Air in the same way. PvP between strength-type professions had always been simple, crude, and bloody. Currently, Yin Lao Air was only level 65, but he was fully geared in top-tier equipment. The Heavenly God shield in his hand was even an epic weapon. With his high attributes and strength, Yin Lao Air was undoubtedly one of the strongest shield warriors in the game. Although the Paladin was only an elite monster, its attributes were worlds apart from that of a common monster after its name was a celestial. Setting aside the 20 levels difference, the Paladin's shield was similar to Yin Lao Air's Divine God shield. Moreover, the Paladin was a celestial. Not only could it wield a shield, but it could also wield the Divine God sword in its other hand. The man and the monster were evenly matched. Duong! It was followed by a deafening explosion. Both the Paladin and Yin Lao Air were knocked back 2 steps at the same time. Yin Lao Air's head was temporarily stunned. It seemed that as an elite Protoss monster, the Paladin's attributes were slightly higher than Yin Lao Air's. However, to be able to fight evenly with a Paladin that was 20 levels higher than Yin Lao Air, it was not a loss for Yin Lao Air. The Paladin was just a set of data with some AI. It did not have the IQ of a high-level NPC. It would not be surprised that a player 20 levels lower than it was able to fight evenly with it. After the attack stunned Yin Lao Air, the Paladin's right hand flashed, and a holy light clasped onto the Divine God sword. Taking advantage of the momentum, it slashed horizontally at Yin Lao Air's neck. The Protoss claimed to be benevolent, but when it came to slashing people, their methods were just as cruel and vicious. Yin Lao Air was still stunned and could not dodge. Seeing that Yin Lao Air was about to be slashed in the neck, Wu Ji raised his staff, and a golden holy light fell from the sky, sprinkling on Yin Lao Air's body. Invincible, holy light shield. Clang! The Paladin's sword slashed at Yin Lao Air's neck. Yin Lao Air was unharmed, but he was knocked to the ground by the Paladin's huge strength. Yin Lao Air's reaction was extremely fast. After falling to the ground, Yin Lao Air's stun was dispelled. He rolled backward and rolled out of the Paladin's attack range. When the Angel of Judgment behind the Paladin saw this, he pointed the staff in his hand at Yin Lao Air, and a dazzling golden light condensed on the staff. Of course, the people on Xuanzhen's side were not idle. The magic condensed by the Angel of Judgment was almost instantaneous. However, before the Angel of Judgment could cast a spell, suddenly a lightning bolt as thick as a bucket fell from the sky and hit the top of the Angel of Judgment's head. Minus 322,221, huge damage floated up, and the HP bar on the Angel of Judgment's head dropped by a third. A skill smashed out 6-digit damage. Obviously, there were no more than 10 people in the entire game who could do this. Mingdu shook the vermilion bird staff in his hand and spat disdainfully. "You dare to hit my brother? Do you think we're just decorations?" Thunderstorm was the strongest single-target spell of a mage. Not only did the damage not moderate, but it also had a particularly rare special effect: paralysis. In the state of paralysis, the target's movement defense was reduced by 80%, and they lost the ability to cast spells. Even skills such as internal surge could not be used. It was an irresistible control effect that combined muting and reducing defense. It could be said to be quite terrifying. However, Berserk Lightning was a DPS skill, so there was a chance that the paralysis effect would trigger. Moreover, Bright Doe was a mage who relied on prediction and not crowd control. Hence, he rarely used Berserk Lightning as a crowd control skill. However, this time, the Angel of Judgment was unlucky. He was actually hit by the paralysis effect. Of course, the Angel of Judgment who was paralyzed was unable to attack Inlao Air on the ground. The paladin that was chasing Inlao Air also turned around and threw a holy light at the Angel of Judgment. Plus 32,221 inches the blink of an eye. The damage dealt by Bright Doe was fully recovered. F***CK. Seeing this scene, the people of Chuanjin were stunned. Sure enough, the Nephilim monsters looked disgusting, and the Protoss monsters looked disgusting. This was too shameless. Again, Mingdu shouted as he raised his staff. A second heavenly thunder descended from the sky and once again hit the Angel of Judgment. In the state of paralysis, the Angel of Judgment's defense was greatly reduced. -57213, another huge damage number floated up, and the HP bar on the Angel of Judgment's head plummeted by more than half. The Paladin and Executive Angel raised their hands at the same time without saying a word. This time, 2 holy lights fell. -57213, the Angel of Judgment's HP bar was once again full. F***CK. The people of Chuanjin cried out. At this moment, everyone could see that the 3 angels opposite them were definitely much more difficult to deal with than they had imagined. Chapter 17:16. Obviously, if even warriors and archers could heal, it was impossible that the Angel of Judgment couldn't. The reason why the Angel of Judgment didn't heal itself was that it was in a state of paralysis. Mingdu's magic attack was so high that no one could match it. Even Wang Yu had to use several ultimate skills to deal such high damage. But even so, under the holy light of the angels, Mingdu's attack was useless. These 3 angels had so much healing in one mouthful. If they really let them wash each other, everyone would probably be delayed here today. One had to know that the son of the Holy Soul was awakening. Who knew what this guy would do after his attributes were awakened? Xuanjin's group didn't have the conditions to waste time with these small monsters. Wuji frowned and said, "It seems that this thing has to be killed in 1 hit. Otherwise, there's no way to fight." 1-hit kill? Mingdu was speechless. This thing has 1 million HP. 1-hit kill? Are you kidding me? Wasn't that right? The current level 60 small boss only had a few million HP. Wouldn't 1-hit kill the boss? Couldn't they respect the system's settings? 1-hit kill isn't for you to deal damage alone. Wuji looked at Mingdu with disdain and said, "Looking at the situation now, the other 2 angels also need time to cast their spells. As long as we can deal damage to kill them in 1 hit, it'll be fine." Speaking up to this point, Wuji ordered Inlao Air, who was under the paladin's feet. "Second brother, pull him over." Xuanjin's long-range damage output had always been relatively weak. Other than Mingdu, there were only Yang Na and Ling Longdream. Including Wuji and Chun Xiang, there were only 5 people in total. However, the archer was a continuous damage output. These 2 girls were a melee type and an intelligence type. There was basically no way to deal damage from a long-range attack. As for Wuji and Chun Xiang, one healed and the other poisoned. Saying that they were damage output professions was already praising them. Therefore, if they wanted to kill the target in 1 hit, they had to close the distance between the 3 angels and the team. All right. After receiving instructions from Wuji, Inlao Air once again rushed to the front of the Angel of Judgment. He then raised his hand and used taunt on the Angel of Judgment. The Angel of Judgment was involuntarily pulled over by Inlao Air. Of course, this distance was not enough to pull the Angel of Judgment to the front of the team, but Yin Lao Er was an extremely smart guy. After taunting the Angel of Judgment, Yin Lao Er immediately jumped back before the Angel of Judgment was pulled in front of him. After landing, he rolled twice and rolled back to the front of the team. The casting distance of taunt was 3 meters. The distance of Yin Lao Er's jump was 1 meter, and the distance of 2 rolls was 5 meters. Added together, it was just the distance from the Angel of Judgment to Chuanjin's team. Needless to say, Yin Lao Er's taunt was definitely at a professional level. Taunt skill description: forcefully pulls the taunted target to your side. Therefore, when Yin Lao Er rolled back to the team, the Angel of Judgment was also pulled back to Chuanjin's team. To be on the safe side, Yin Lao Er did not forget to use Shield Bash on the Angel of Judgment to stun it. Flickering Shadow Chain Kick, Rising Dragon Slash, Yama Killer Stab, Shura Instant Hellish Kill, Thunder Blast. Seeing that Yin Lao Er pulled the Angel of Judgment to the front of the team, the Chuanjin people who were ready to go attacked at the same time. These were the most powerful damage output skills of the Chuanjin people. Needless to say, the strength of the Chuanjin people did not need to be mentioned. The Angel of Judgment did not even have time to fart before it was turned into white light by a group of evil dogs. An elite monster could enjoy so many powerful skills at the same time in its lifetime. It could be considered a blessing of 3 lifetimes. Although the elite Protoss monsters were not intelligent NPCs, their AI was not low. Seeing that their companion, the Angel of Judgment, was killed by the Chuanjin people, a series of exclamation marks appeared on the heads of the other 2 angels. The Guardian Angel immediately smashed his shield on the ground and entered a defensive stance. The Executive Angel also activated lightning speed, turned around, and flew backward. It was not difficult to see that in the system setting, as long as one of the 3 angels was killed, the other 2's escape command would automatically be triggered. It was impossible to focus fire on the Guardian Angel for the second wave. This bastard had millions of HP. Even if the Chuanjin people used their ultimate skills, they might not be able to kill it. As long as the Executive Angel was still there, the 2 could still kill each other. Therefore, after killing the Angel of Judgment, the second to be killed was the Executive Angel. However, as an archer, the Executive Angel ran very fast. After activating lightning speed, her speed was simply insane. Yin Lao Er was a short-legged shield warrior. Even if he ran until he pissed his pants, he would not be able to catch up with the Executive Angel. Yang Na and Baiming Yu could catch up, but both of them were agility-type professions. Their control skills were extremely rare, let alone a grab skill like Taunt. Just as the Executive Angel hid far away and shot arrows at the Chuanjin people wretchedly, a black shadow suddenly jumped in the direction of the Executive Angel. The person who jumped out was tall and burly, and his speed was extremely fast. It was Wang Yu. As an agility-type profession, Wang Yu's equipment added a lot of agility attributes. His movement speed was not inferior to Yang Na and Baiming Yu. After activating Qinggong, Wang Yu's movement speed was fast, even faster than the Executive Angel. Wang Yu crossed the distance of 17 to 18 meters in an instant, and then landed steadily 5 meters away from the Executive Angel. The Executive Angel triggered an escape command. Seeing that someone was approaching, the Executive Angel turned around and ran back without saying a word. In a flash, Wang Yu took a step forward and stretched out his right hand. A white light shot out from Wang Yu's hand and rolled straight toward the Executive Angel's back, wrapping him in the white light. Then, Wang Yu flashed back 5 meters. The Executive Angel's back was facing Wang Yu, and he was pulled to within 10 meters of the Chuanjin people by Wang Yu. Before the Executive Angel landed, Wang Yu's figure turned in front of the Executive Angel. Then, he raised his foot and kicked the Executive Angel's face with lightning. When the poor Executive Angel reacted, he had already been kicked into the hands of the Chuanjin people. Army Breaker, Dragon Slayer, Thunderbolt, Triple Kick. It was another wave of gorgeous attacks. The Executive Angel, who did not have much HP to begin with, died on the spot. With his companion dead, The guardian angel naturally could not do anything alone. After all, the speed of one holy light healer and 3 holy light healers was not as simple as 1 plus 1. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.